Hello and welcome to 2021 Vision Challenge Semifinals Heat number 4. I'm Alex Fair. I'm with MedStarter Ventures, MedStarter.com, MedStarter.NYC, and a whole bunch of other things. I'm here with my wonderful reindeer, my kick-ass team member, associate, Pat Hurd, who does everything here except talk. And so that's my job, I talk. Basically, we're running a pitch contest for 9 teams today. It was going to be 10, but then somebody dropped out, so we're never going to talk about them again. And that is true. Teams self-select themselves out of our process. And what is this? This is kind of our process, right? So MedStarter basically, well, let's go back a little bit and say what MedStarter is. Basically, we started out as a meetup group, now became a global ecosystem, and we've got relationships with lots of amazing folks. Mute Heather, please. Sorry, Heather. That help us figure out which companies are the most likely to be successful. We've been helping companies for over 10 years get forward faster, but also nonprofits and really great ideas from people who just are creative and can do amazing things. We do like to have a lot of fun with these events. We know healthcare innovation is very serious business. They are matters of life and death, but the hardest thing for a healthcare innovator is very often, that's Rob. Sorry, one of our judges is calling. Is very often getting out to market, getting out of the lab or of, the studio, and actually into hospitals, into the innovation centers. So that's why one of the things we like to do is put companies on our stages and then show it to, tons of people in the space, whether they lead hospitals or they're pharma leaders or what have you, to help them get close to the ideas. We do this with our events. We do this with our challenges. We do it with our websites. And we've been doing it for a long time. Companies like Medable, Misfit Wearables, DocGraph, which I'm actually wearing the DocGraph shirt right now. DocGraph, which was the original name of a company called CareSet, run by Fred Trotter. Made its first $65,000 on the MedStarter.com website, for example. Got their first 48 customers. So that's the kind of thing we love being able to enable, and we keep coming up with new and better ways to do this. One of the things we discovered this year during our War on COVID challenges was that if we did a bunch of semifinal heats, we could get 600, 700 teams assessed, and then put 50 of them on stage, and then ask you guys, our crowd, which ones you guys like best. And then from among those 50 teams, we'll be able to find 3 or 4 great investments. So that's what this whole thing is, right? So the MedMo World Tour, usually this year, I think Pat's wearing the t-shirt, which you can see later, but it looks like this, basically was going to be on 3 continents and 16 cities or so. And then we got as far as, we did Miami, and we actually did a bunch of other cities. But we also, we stopped, obviously South by Southwest when they canceled that due to COVID. But Ross can tell you, last year when we went to DC, we actually recorded some video there of him doing some great music. And we've seen a lot of you in a lot of places around the country and soon around the world. So our process of investing, so MedStarter, it started as a meetup group. We moved on to become a crowdfunding site, and now we're a venture capital firm as well. We didn't stop doing any of those other things, but we do VC work now as well. But we created a due diligence process that's pretty comprehensive. Oh, you guys aren't seeing my screen change, are you? This is not good. Hang on. Sorry, guys. I thought you guys were seeing my screen.
Yeah, maybe. I also sent a direct link to you.
Tell Rob that he's messing up our event and he needs to get off the phone. One of our judges, one of our favorite mentors that is very helpful, is on the phone having technical difficulties, and he's using Pat, so that's why you guys aren't seeing my screen right now. Let's see if I can do this again. Screen 2, okay, and then slideshow. Sorry, guys.
I'll do it.
Oh, you're gonna do it? Okay, so he's gonna show his screen. Anyway, so what I was trying to tell you guys about was our due diligence process, which if I stop sharing my screen, maybe you guys can see. But basically, it starts out with whoever wins the contest. Then, but are you sharing your screen?
You have to stop sharing yours.
Okay. So it starts with who wins. You know, there's always something that happens in every event. Here,
We can see your screen now. We're good.
You see my screen? Yeah, but you only see the yellow screen, the yellow
No,
part.
we're seeing the due diligence process.
Oh, okay.
Really? Huh. That's interesting. Well, that's good, I guess. So that's messed up because I can't see that screen. So anyway, so basically, after you win the contest, we then will ask you for information, and we'll do a more typical venture capital due diligence process. But typical VCs have to go through like 700 companies to get to like 3 or 4 that they invest in. We actually go through a lot more than that, and we get down to like 60 that we actually look at in great detail, and those are the winners of these contests. So we don't think that we know everything, so we ask you guys to help us in the judging process. So we actually do have a pretty tight schedule today. Do you guys see my schedule now? Do you see my screen still with the schedule? Anyone?
I see mine.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. So you can, okay. I'm the only one who can't see. Here it is. Oh, perfect. Thanks. Okay. So so you can see that we actually have a pretty tight schedule here, and then we have to get to the 10-minute pitches. Each team will have 5 minutes to pitch. You'll be stopped at 5 minutes. Heather, raise your hand, Heather. That's Heather. She will be the one who's going to be telling you, you got 30 seconds left, you got a minute left. So she'll be either holding up a sign or her phone, and she'll go like this and definitely audio cue you to tell you that you're done when you're done. But if you get done early, then she'll just add that time to your Q&A time. So you get a total of 10 minutes. If you go over a little bit, we usually stop you, and then maybe we'll ask you something we really want to know that you didn't cover, but please try to get through your content in 5 minutes and tell us your team, your tech, your model, your method, how you're going to make money. And also never forget your ask. Okay. Speak up and do not get too flustered. Anyway, so we've got 9 teams today. We're going to let the judges intro themselves. They're pretty amazing people. I see Atisha's here, speaking of which. Some of the sponsors are here as well. And so we'll ask you guys to tell you about your wonderfulness. Did Dr. Scaduto get in or no?
Yes.
Is he here, Rob? Anyway.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, what's happening?
Well, there you are. So we've got amazing judges and panelists today. So if you guys will go around and introduce yourselves in 30 to 90 seconds at most, that'd be awesome. I mean, many of these folks are close friends and investors, people I've known for a long time, and I appreciate all of them. I trust their judgment. Also, I do ask that those of you in the crowd, people like Livia, who came in today, who are also amazing, I just didn't know them before today, or even ones that I do know. If you're in the crowd, please raise your hand, and Pat will pull you into the judging panel. Everybody is welcome, including the startups, to use the judging forms. Okay, so
where are they?
Pat's going to drop a link to that in the chat box. So if you click on that chat thing in the middle, you should see in there, it says the judging form. That's the one that goes forms.gle6jn whatever, blah, blah, blah. So you can see it as like the 3rd message in the chat box from 3:58 p.m. At least Eastern time. So
here, forms.
So you click on that. Can you mute Rob? No, I'm kidding. I'm just happy I finally learned how to spell Rob's name. For years I would put him on the list of the parties we'd have, and I would just make his name different every time because I had no idea how to spell
You
it.
didn't learn, you copied and pasted. That's different.
Yeah, well, actually, Pat did it, so. I learned not to do it myself, which is smart. Anyway, so yeah, some amazing engineers here, including Rob, Atisha, and now a new one that we've just gotten to know, Olivia. Dan Rothman, who's been a good friend for a long time, and is a big city MD guy, now at Render Care, an investor. But I'll let you guys introduce yourself. So take it away. Whoever wants to go first. Ladies first, I would generally say. Atisha?
Hi, I'm Atisha. I'm from Philadelphia, and I did biomedical engineering, and I started Nodicare. It's a platform that bridges a communication gap between the patients and the patient's family members by sending real-time updates on their status. Yeah.
Great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Yes, and happy Diwali. Is that over now?
It is.
It's like 2 weeks ago. Last time
Thank you.
who else is here? Livia, why don't you go since you're the noob?
Sure. So hi everybody, my name is Livia. I'm very passionate about healthcare. I've been working in healthcare my entire life. So I'm a biomedical engineer by background. I've worked 5 years in proton therapy. Then I switched to digital health, and now I'm working for a company called 28 Health, where our goal is really to improve the access to reproductive health to underserved women.
Very great. That's awesome. We actually are talking about doing a FemTech event and contest after this one's over, so early next year. So let's keep talking. Kat, who used to be an intern with us, believe it or not, when she was in med school. Now she's out of med school. She's practicing. Kat, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, you spoiled all the backstory, but yeah, I am from New York City and went to SUNY Downstate for medical school, and I got acquainted with MedStarter, helped with a lot of the early pitch contests with Health 2.0, and then went off to residency on the West Coast, and subsequently reconnected since now we can do all these things virtually. And I am now a psychiatrist, and clinically I work with a group in Montana to connect people who otherwise don't have good access to mental health care. And I'm really excited about healthcare innovation in general.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to have you, Kat. Okay, I think that's all the girls we have here. Oh no, there's Joe Daniels. Joe, not that you're a girl, but he's a sponsor. So Joe, one of my favorite lawyers, which is a very small list, has been our lawyer for years and has been sponsoring events, works with our startups. Joe, why don't you tell them about you and McCarter in English? Since I know you have another call coming up, unless you're already on that call. Okay, so Paulo.
Hi everybody, Paulo Machado. Been involved with MedStarter since the early days. Been involved with startups in general for well over a decade now. Enjoyed meeting new companies and helping them scale their models and help people.
Yeah, Paul is one of our investors as well and a venture partner. He works with our teams, helping them get going faster, and is just awesome to have with us. So thank you, Paulo, for everything. I think George Hatzman is here too, speaking of our investors. George, you here? Well, Rob DeLeonardis is, if you want to say hi, Rob.
Hi. Trying to pick a background that matches this thing. I'll go with none. My name is Robert Scanazzi. I went to college with Alex a few years back. I've been an engineer for many years. I started out in product development, went more into manufacturing as of late. I developed my own product, looking at exiting it, and currently am working with Dexcom or for Dexcom, doing some very high volume scale up activities.
Yeah, and Rob is like a super engineer. He won't talk about it, but he's the guy that engineers call when they can't figure out what happens, and he's the guy that I call when I can't figure out when I'm supposed to be or
Alex is my best spokesperson. So
yes, well, I appreciate you. Anyway, so no, I mean honestly, I as Rob knows, I didn't study engineering in college, and I did something called interdisciplinary science, which is basically you never have to go deep. So my whole methodology in life is to know people who go deep. And so when I need deep engineering, I go to Rob Scanazzi or Skipizza or whatever I decide to call him that day. So another area I don't go deep in, although I would like to, is music. So Ross Martin, physician, musician, and just entrepreneur and an amazing guy. Why don't you tell everybody
Ross
who you
Martin,
are?
I'm a non-practicing. I haven't done anything clinical for over 20 years.
Louder, Ross, or
yeah,
get to the mic?
it's been about 20 years since I've done anything clinical, but I've been doing medical informatics for the last couple decades, focusing on health information exchange and standards and policies related to all of those things and electronic health records and stuff. I live in Maryland, kind of midway between DC and Baltimore, so kind of have a federal focus generally. Spent a lot of my time at the Health Information Exchange CRISP, which serves Maryland, DC, West Virginia, now Connecticut, also part of Northern California and a little bit of Florida and Alaska and other places yet to be named. I focus on giving research data to folks in that capacity. My company, 360 Degree Insights, is just an innovation consulting firm that I solo practice. And I'm just looking at my picture going, wow, have I really aged that much in 4 years since that picture was taken? It's just COVID, I guess, you know, get the beard, you cut your hair
it's COVID.
off.
It's not time or anything. It's not telomeres getting shorter or anything.
I remember ties and suits. That's just a fascinating memory.
I
hope I still remembered how to put one on.
Yeah, I'm wearing my special Dotgraph t-shirt today, you know, so I mean, that's about it. So.
And this is my studio, by the way. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Music.
That's great. Fantastic. I'm very happy to have you here, Ross.
Thank you.
One of our sponsors that we used to do events at their place is actually here today, CohnReznick. When we invest in a company, we also give an acceleration package worth about $250,000. And one of the things they get is 15 hours of pro bono consulting from CohnReznick. So they work with our startups. So I don't know if Sean is, if you're.
Yep, I'm here, Alex. Yeah.
Oh, so why don't you tell folks a little bit about CohnReznick just for a minute or two?
CohnReznick's a full-service advisory assurance tax firm. We are, 25 offices across the country, but pretty heavily kind of focused in the Northeast here. That's our biggest region, and where our largest offices are New York City, New Jersey, in that area. And I'm a tax partner. I split time between the New Jersey offices and the New York office and focus on the technology, healthcare, and life sciences space in the firm. Have been working with startups now for the last 10 years and have really exclusively been doing that and, kind of helping them scale up and get to the point where, some of my largest clients are now public companies, and I've worked with them from the time where they were, maybe a dozen or so employees here in the US. And so it's really fun to be on that ride. And in terms of CohnReznick, it's a great spot for people to come and kind of, for us to be able to give that advice and work with companies that are that small and go on that ride with them. It's definitely good to be part of the team and journey in that way. So anybody has any questions about that, you can let me know. But otherwise, Alex, thanks for letting me be a part of this, and really look forward to it.
Well, thanks for your support. I mean, we look forward to doing events back in your space again. I mean, some of our favorite events were at your place. I think we did Mission Physician Transition at your place, or it might have been Joe's place.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'd love to see my space again too at some point. So we'll.
Yeah, right. Hey, you guys have the little snooker table in the back room, right? And you got the little game room. That was my favorite thing.
Yep.
But and of course, you guys are financial sponsors of all the food and drink, and your staff are amazing. So anyway, so we appreciate you guys and what you do with our startups, which we need to do more of that. So we should talk afterwards.
Of course.
Another great sponsor we've had over the years is CityMD, and the guy who brought us to CityMD actually is here today. Very old friend of mine, another investor, sometimes invest in some of the same stuff. Actually, I don't know. Have we invested in the same company yet? I'm not sure, Dan. But we probably will. So Dan Rothman is here. Also,
what about Miami?
Oh yeah, of course. How could I forget Miami? He brought us our third and one of our favorite startups we invested in, Miami, which is an app that works better than prednisone for people with rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. So they're getting a ton of traction with Humana, Oscar, and they're saving people the hell of having RA and lupus episodes. So, but Dan was an earlier believer there, and he joined them as a investor and operating partner, and he took them to the next level, got them into our portfolio, and then he moved on to other great stuff like he's doing now. So I'll shut up about Dan. Why don't you talk about Dan? Also a new father, well, relatively new father. She's like
I have a 13-and-a-half-month-old at home, so I don't sleep anymore. Although she has been sleeping through the night the last couple of days, I still am not trained to sleep through the night.
I don't sleep through the night still.
CityMD was fun. I was there for 6 years from really the ground up. Now it's getting sort of big and splashy. I was there when it was very small and humble. And the crew that I worked with to build CityMD is, again, almost all of the original founders from CityMD are now doing something called Render Care Physician. I've been sort of absent from the startup scene for really the last year because I've been under a rock building this. We took 17 different medical practices, all serving Chinese American patients in New York and Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens, and merged them together into a single thing. And now that
sounds like the old physician practice management model. You guys
sort of, but what CityMD did as bringing access to care to everyone, being on main and main, which was not something that had been done previously. This is meant to take it further. Our population is about 60% Medicaid, and almost exclusively immigrant, underserved, with the idea that much like ChenMed or Oak Street Health will ultimately take risks, and by providing superior care to patients, change the outcome for those patients and profit off of the shared savings.
That's great.
So,
well, it's great to have you here, Dan. I know you can't stay that long, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But I just wanted to introduce 3 or 4 more people. And if anybody that hasn't been mentioned is Judge here, and I haven't seen you, then please make sure you tell me. But I would say 3 of our investors and partners, important partners, are here with us right now. So George Hatzman, say hi, George.
Yeah.
Also grew up with us. Rob DeLeonardis and my brother John Fair. I don't know if
hey guys.
Hey Rob. So these guys are the guys that, when I started Fund 1, it was just me, and then these guys came in, made it bigger and bigger, so we can do more and more stuff. So it's not just Alex anymore. So we've got about 20 different investors, 4 of whom are here with us today, including my brother, who I think is watching someplace in a hospital with his newborn child, Sophia, maybe Octavia Fair. So my 5th niece and our next generation, and very excited to have you here, John, watching. Great people to have, by my side as we go through the journey of becoming investment bankers and VCs and the like, which we've gotten pretty good at now, if I do say so myself. But we had a lot to learn. So I did want to point out one of my favorite investment team CEOs is here today. So I'll switch to my direct shifts hat, and you can see it's matching with Cy Thurmerlu. Hey Cy, thanks for coming along and helping judge these startups today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Sorry about messing up your name in the judge list.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. No, I think great to be here. So as Alex said, we have known Alex for I think the past 3 years now. Health 2.0, and we started meeting Alex, and actually now we work out of the same office space that Alex used to host the Health 2.0.
Yeah, that we never go to anymore. I think Pat went there 2 weeks ago. You weren't there.
Ago, yeah.
So we're here. But yeah, what we do at Direct Shifts, is we connect clinicians to employers for any kind of opportunities, be it full-time, telemedicine, part-time, any of these opportunities. And when we say clinicians, we started off with physicians initially, but with COVID, we've rapidly expanded to not just physicians, but also nurse practitioners, nurses, allied health professionals like therapists, medical assistants, anybody of that sort. Our value add is basically we use technology to decrease recruiting costs, be it for full-time or for part-time, to any organization. So yeah, that's kind of where we are right now. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you for your help. You're always very participatory. I don't know if you saw, but I told everybody about you in the New York meetup group. Another 7,000 people getting your messages today. So always glad to work with you guys to help you guys go on further, faster. So I think that's pretty much everybody. If I've forgotten anybody, please tell me. If anybody's out there in the crowd that is one of our judges that somehow wound up in the wrong place, just make sure you raise your hand and Pat will bring you in. A very important thing, and this isn't just for the official judges, but for everybody, is helping us figure out who the best team is. Who's going to get our love and attention and due diligence process and hopefully our money and acceleration program and all this stuff. You guys help us figure out the first pass of that. And to do that, we have a Google sheet, a Google form that we basically ask you to fill out. which I'm going to take you through real quick. Pat, if you want to show them that part of the screen. But basically, it's a Google Doc. There's a link to it in the chat room, which you can see from Patrick. It's forms.gle. So if you guys click on that, you'll be able to see exactly what we're doing here. So Pat is going to show us on the screen from the presentation. You should be able to see it yourself as well. Okay, maybe not. Okay, so this is the opening of the form. So we ask everybody to judge. I will say though, if you are one of the teams competing, please do not try to play games because we really don't appreciate that. Just don't judge your own, just skip yours, okay? You just don't put in nothing and it won't count as zeros, it will just count as nothing. And the statistics are all done automatically and things like that. But if you do fill out the form and you haven't gotten one before, we'll send you one of these cool MedStarter t-shirts, which Pat is actually wearing one of them. I don't know if you can see, there it is. Okay, very cool. And obviously there's male and female versions and different sizes, so make sure you tell us all that stuff. But anyway, so if you go to the next page of the form, you'll see that we actually ask you about every team, 5 or 6 things, 6 things actually, but how innovative it is, how the clinical benefit potential, if it was your money, would you invest in it, if it's fundability, if it's scalable, if you think it can go worldwide, the presentation quality, and one other one that I always forget. But they're all there on the form. The other useful thing too is that at the top, it gives you the name and it gives you a link to their pitch deck. So even if the presenter is, stuck on one slide, you can always sort through and look at stuff more closely. I know that I always want to do that. You have 5 minutes, it seems like it's not a lot of time, but if you know what the person's going to say, it's very useful, especially for ADHD people like myself, to quickly, go to wherever you want. So anyway, do not use the browser back button. You'll see at the bottom of the form, there's the next and whatever. I will say if you are a judge who only has a certain amount of time and has to leave, all data is good. And not just for judges, everybody, of course. I mean, everybody's a judge. But yeah, just make sure you scroll through to the end, give us your address information so we can ship you a t-shirt. And that's it. So we really would appreciate it if everybody would do that. We're going to be doing it too. We're going to pause a little bit in between, but do not, sort of wait until later to do it, because with 9 teams, you're not going to remember your thoughts about team 1 after team 9. We like to capture as much of this information as really part of our model. We also ask that if you want to share the information with the teams, constructive criticism, feedback is always wonderful. But if you don't want to share it, just tell us which, no, not to share it, and that kind of thing. So, or you can tell us later and share these or share those, So we send all that feedback to the teams. Except for the ones you guys tell us not to. So we capture all that information, we send it in. We also do this on the medstarter.com site and in our crowd challenges and all sorts of other places. So this is part of our model. Okay, Rob, I'll finish. So is there anything else I have to talk about before we get on? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so I will give some coaching to the teams. Number 1, you only have 5 minutes, okay? Please try to get it done inside of 5 minutes. Number 2, if you have background noise like this, make sure you hit mute. I don't know if you guys heard all the sirens going by. Number 3, if you want to get closer to your computer sometimes, because if I'm going like this, means I can't hear you. If I'm doing this, I can't hear you. Okay, so speak into the mic. Try to keep your answers, and the same thing for the judges, keep your questions short. You only have 5 minutes for the Q&A, so I want you to get through as much information as possible. You can always, if you're a panelist or if you're out in the audience, and you want to ask a question and you can't get a word in edgewise because somebody is asking 6 questions or whatever, which we don't usually appreciate or allow. So try to ask one and let somebody else go. So take turns. So the same things, from kindergarten you want to do here, right? But be concise and try to be quick with your answers. Okay, is that pretty much everything? Yes. Okay, that's the things we usually remember. Okay, once again, Heather is your timer. Keep an eye on her. Our first presenter. So if you guys all open up your judging form, I'm going to go open up mine. Ahmed's our first guy. Yep. So our first presenter is Ahmed Zayed from Mazboot, which I love that name. I don't know if you know, but we run one of the first Health 2.0 chapters in the world. For those of you who don't know what Health 2.0 is, was whatever, an organization that promoted healthcare innovation and startups, got bought by HIMSS. a couple of years ago. Anyway, so these chapters grew around the world. So Ahmed actually did work with and ran the Egyptian version. I believe it's in Cairo, but we'll hear more about that. So if you get to that page, you should see a one Mazboot at the top of the page on the judging form. And Ahmed, whenever you're ready to share your screen, are we driving, or is he driving? I think he's driving.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, good.
Finish.
So the way this works is pay attention to Heather, right? She's blonde over there, so there she is. And so she'll tell you when your 5 minutes are up, or if you're done fast, she'll add that time to your Q&A session. Judges, guys, you ready? Heather, you're ready, right? Ahmed, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, as soon as you start talking, Ahmed, you go, 5 minutes.
Okay, this is Ahmed Zayed from Egypt, and I'm here to present Mazboot. Mazboot is an Arabic word which means controlled, and this is actually our vision for chronic disease patients to get their conditions controlled. Around 70 million chronic disease patients in the Arab world suffer from long-term treatment plans, which increases psychological stress and ends with low motivation. Also, from the other side, doctors don't have enough time to spend with patients to educate them about how to self-manage their conditions, which ends with low empowerment of the patients. All this leads to poor health control, which leads to severe health complications that may end in death. And that's where Mazboot has came up with a solution, which is in-app AI-based personal health assistant to help users make healthier choices and manage their conditions through hassle-free health tracking tools and proactive health coaching. And actually, typically our promise that we give to patients is that by using Mazboot, they can control their conditions and hence get no complications and live their lives healthier. That's where Mazboot has designed care program as a digital health program that supports chronic disease patients in an interactive, preventive, and personalized way to help them control their conditions. It's presented through multiple conditions. One specialized for diabetes management, one specialized for hypertension management, and other is specialized for weight management or diabetes prevention. Mazboot mHealth care components work using data-driven medical algorithms and cutting-edge AI combined with human coaches and connected devices to provide the care program components. First of which is the health tracking, through which we track all self-management items from diet, physical fitness, medications, and regular checkups. Also, patients can get insights about their data. Second is a personal coach who interact with the patients in real time and personalized 24/7 support and counseling. Also, to provide our patients comprehensive care, we provide a population health management module for insurance and shared care plan module for healthcare providers. All this is presented in a fun and motivating way through our motivational techniques, which acts as a pointing system, as self-challenging system, and social challenging system. Also, patients can share progress with their loved ones. Our business model is mainly subscription-based, either individual patient subscriptions or bulk patient subscription. And that's how our business model works with subscriptions through which chronic disease patients take the buying decision by themselves and pay either cash or credit through their insurance companies, and the bulk subscriptions through which healthcare payer can take the decision by giving Mazboot subscription to all his patients, or his chronic disease patients, either insurance, governmental or private, employers or health plans. Also, healthcare providers can provide their patients with bulk subscription. These bulk subscriptions can get sponsored by pharmaceutical companies or by direct contracting with healthcare providers. Also, users in the app can make transactions on medications and other healthcare services or products they need, and that's where we can raise commission-based revenues from the marketplace. Through our pilot traction, we have reached around 15,000 users on Play Store and around 250 doctors, and we have reached revenues around 10K US dollar. We have been supported by many pharmaceutical companies like MSD, Novartis, Sanofi, and also by many scientific medical diabetes association in Egypt. Our market size is huge. The Arab world in the MENA region is the second highest rate of increase of chronic disease patients prevalence by 70 million chronic disease patients, out of which around 24 million patients, smartphone users, and in the target age 30 to 60 years old. To realize also the healthcare expenditure on diabetes alone reaches $20 billion per year across the MENA region. We have three main competitive advantages. First of which is the localization, and localization not just about the language, but customizing all the app features to the local experience of the Arab world, and like the diet and physical activity and so on. Despite there are many Arab apps for diabetes, but all of them are informative, not interactive enough with patients to tell them what they can do in their daily life. Also, we provide our patients comprehensive experience, so we don't exclude doctors. Actually, doctors are our partners in the service that we provide to patients. And this is actually our roadmap. By the next year, we aim to scale to Bahrain as pilot to GCC, Gulf countries. Also, we aim to integrate with one brand of home devices to be synchronized with our software and reach. Okay, thank you.
5 minutes, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is it okay to ask them now?
Yes.
My first question is, what are the equivalent solutions either in Europe or in the US? Does it already exist?
Yes, there are companies in US like WellDoc with its Blue Star solution for diabetes management. Also, in Europe there is MySugar, which got acquired by Roche Diagnostics, and being distributed along with their glucometers, which is AccuCheck. Also, there are other solutions in the US like Omada Health, like Livongo, like can't
so
remember.
Ahmed, I'm sorry, I was on mute before. Try to keep your answers succinct. I think the quick answer to Olivia's question is yes, there's tons of them, and a lot of them have been acquired, and some of them are worth $1 billion now. I guess, but more specific version.
How's this one protected from, going back to her question? How is this distinguished, and how is this one protected?
Yeah, why is it better? More important? I think the big thing is it's in Arabic, right? I mean.
Yes, we are focusing on the Arab world and MENA region. So we are geographically focused on this market with a huge number of patients. Healthcare markets in the Arab world are different in their nature than the US healthcare market. Some healthcare markets, like in Egypt, which is not institutionalized enough, like being governmental insurance in healthcare is low, and other healthcare markets in the Arab world, like the GCC, is more institutionalized. So we provide different offerings and value proposition for different healthcare markets in the Arab world, and our main competitive advantages is the localization and comprehensiveness and interactivity that we give to our patients in the Arab world.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, that's I like the general business plan. It's good. It's safe. But going back to the IP, how are you protected, or how well will you be able to guard your business so that you have something you can exit with?
And the converse is, how are you making sure that you're not encroaching on other IP of company, because there are a lot of companies that are doing this type of work.
Okay. Regarding the IP, our plan is to protect our own build algorithms by intellectual property, but that move needs a lot of investment to actually register for international IP protection. So it's in the plan, but just postponed due to fund issues, because it costs us a lot.
It does seem like there's a lot of there are a lot of companies in this space, but I'm not familiar with the Arab-speaking world product population right now, so I couldn't say about that. But I'm assuming that there are some competitors there as well. Have you thought about collaborating with someone with an existing platform and saying, we're going to take this and and bring it into the Arab-speaking world in that is culturally sensitive and not just language translation, but also thinking about all those dynamics you mentioned.
Yes, as I said before, there are many market entry barriers for European players or US players to get into the region and play the same role that they are playing in the US or European markets, because the different nature of the healthcare market and the different nature of the culture and culture regarding everything, regarding diet, regarding the healthcare behavior and health habits related to the region and its populations. So we have built our own solution, by our own algorithms, by our own minds, and for sure in the future, one of the exit strategies is that some of the global players we got acquired by them. So it's one of maybe the exit strategies, but we believe there are many market entry barriers for global players to work in our region.
Are there competitors in your region in this space already? I mean, is Livongo already there?
No, not yet till now. Many other applications, but they are small in traction, and also they are not interactive enough to the level that we have reached by our technology.
All right, that was the last question.
Other question?
What's the price?
It's like $10 a user. So tell me about your traction. I saw that you said that you have, do you have any big players? You say you're doing bulk sales. Just 10 seconds to answer.
Yes, we're negotiating with Novartis to buy bulk subscriptions for diabetic patients in Egypt. Also, we have also some other negotiations with AstraZeneca, but deals are not
so nothing's closed yet, right?
No bulk subscriptions.
So your 10K in revenue was mostly from people just signing up directly through your app?
Yes.
Okay. That's not bad. How long has your app been in the App Store?
In like 1 year.
Okay. That's great. Good job. Thank you for coming and presenting. Judges, you'll take a moment and fill out section 1. We'd be appreciative. If you've already done it, like I have, then just chill out for a second. I also wanted to say, actually, my brother is listening. I see he's in the audience. So hi, John. Thanks for paying attention, even though I know you're at the hospital still with the baby. So our next presenter, Victor Bornstein from Just Point. Interesting idea here. I'm actually not very excited about their main idea, but I do love what they could be doing with it, which hopefully is what he's talking about today. Having been part of the legal industry, medical legal industry before, I kind of have a lot of thoughts about that. Anyway, so if the judges, if you guys are all ready, I don't see anybody saying no. And Heather, if you're ready to set the timer for 5 minutes. Okay. Now, Heather, are you holding up a sign or anything at 30 seconds or anything?
It did. The alarm goes off at 30 seconds.
Okay, good. So that sounds like a ding or something?
Yeah, ding, ding.
Ding, ding. Okay. Okay. So, Victor, I know you're here. Looks like your screen is sharing. You think everybody's ready. So have at it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Can you hear me well?
Yep, audio's good.
Perfect. Yeah, I think you described it well. Like our main idea is always interesting to present to this public, but for us, the possibilities of what we can do is very interesting. So we work in the medical malpractice space, and we use artificial intelligence to make this process more efficient. Basically, leading with claims, understanding what could be a medical mistake, understanding exposure. And the reason we work on this space is because there's a lot of inefficiency in this space. There's no data. It's difficult to find attorneys. Whether you're a plaintiff or an insurance company, you choose the attorney not based on historical performance, but more on who you know and who you feel like is the right patient. And the process of discovery is very inefficient. So we end up with 20% of claims that should not receive awards, and 40% of claims that actually have merits don't receive awards. So it's a very inefficient space, and that's why all of us distrust the medical malpractice space. So what we built is an AI platform that allows us to do three things. We can understand very quickly the likelihood of a medical malpractice claim winning in court and how much it's likely to win. We can understand which are the best law firms, and forgive me for the typo here, which are the best law firms and medical expert witness that can handle this case. And we can also detect future medical malpractice lawsuits, and then we can find ways to prevent them. And the way that we're currently using this is actually on, I think that's why Alex mentioned our use case. The ones who were quickest to adopt our technology were the plaintiff attorneys. So we've been talking to insurance companies, and they move very slowly. And now we're talking again to hospitals because they tend to move a little faster. But plaintiff attorneys have been adopting technology fast. So quickly, what we do for them is that we understand which plaintiffs are likely to bring lawsuits, and we can match them with the attorneys. And we end up taking a percentage of the case. So this is our current revenue projection. So our product has been going super fast with the plaintiff side, has been growing 16% month over month. And we acquired right now, we have over 2 million that we received for these cases. And we do that very, very efficiently. We acquired this 2 million. Our goal is to get to 4 million this product within the next 6 months, 20 million by the end of next year, and keep growing. And we do this very efficiently. We have an LTV over CAC of over 5, meaning that whatever we spend, we get 5x on revenue for ourselves. And this is an interesting, big space. We can keep optimizing the plaintiff side and making them more efficient. The market size is big. But my main interest in talking here is because my background is I was a professor at Mount Sinai Hospital. I taught there, I did research. All of our team comes from the defense side, from investors to our CTO, whose parents are doctors. So we're interested in, again, giving a try on the defense side again. On the defense side, we can do the same thing that we do, just like in a more efficient way for the risk management teams. We can understand potential medical mistakes and prevent them. So you proactively deal with them before they become lawsuits against your hospital. And we can understand which is the best expert witness and law firm to deal with this case. So we feel like, the best medical mistake is the medical mistake that doesn't happen. And that's something that right now we are interested in doing for the defense side. So our team, very briefly, is myself. As I mentioned, I was a professor at Mount Sinai Hospital. I was an entrepreneur in residence in the Texas Medical Center, working with MD Anderson. I was a fellow at a venture capital firm in New York. Our CTO used to work at Google for 8 years, and he was a Google developer expert. So he is an AI guy. Our COO was a defense attorney for most of his life in medical malpractice. And our chief of marketing was the CMO of the American Kennel Club and in a few different organizations. Also worked in healthcare at RSI's Health. And then what we're looking for right now is that we've raised 1.25 million. 1,250,000. And right now we're closing a round. So we're looking for more 250K. Our lead investor is Vivek Garipalli. So he's the founder of Clover Health, which is a company going public now. Is one of the largest exits in digital health ever. And we have other attorneys in the space, investors in the legal space, and a couple of venture capital firms. So with that, that's basically what we have. So thanks for the time, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, Victor. And that was right on time. I appreciate that. Right, Heather? I think it was exactly at 5. So
yeah.
Very cool. So as I said, we're very familiar with this space. LawCash, is one of our family businesses, for example.
Are there patents on this one? Same sort of question. How's this business protected, or are you just starting the network?
Rob, are you like?
Well, it's going to be a common question, yeah, because I like big exits with lots of money.
Yeah, so great question. So we chose not to have patents. We have developed a lot of proprietary algorithms. All the models that we have, including OCR for digitization, are our models. We chose not to patent after talking to Cooley's, our law firm, and we have some good attorneys there. The advice was not to patent, otherwise we're going to give the road of the way. So we keep everything trade secret, and then the moat, because we don't have a patent, is actually the database. we have 300,000 historical claims in medical malpractice, which is one of the largest databases. So it's difficult for other people to build models like ours because they just don't have access to these data sets.
Cool. And you've been talking to the insurance companies too, not just the provider side or the legal side?
Yeah, so we talked to insurance companies. They're interested in using the product. What they want to see is SOC 2 regulation, and we have a few things on the DevOps to develop. And we chose actively right now not to go with insurance companies just because our team is just 9 people now. And then we would have to hire 2 DevOps people just to develop the product for insurance companies. So it's something that we have on the roadmap. It's just that given the growth that we've been seeing with the plaintiff side, we decided to go on that side first.
Right. Well, they will be interested.
Great job, Victor. This is Paulo. Just wanted curiosity. What are you planning to do with that 250 you're raising?
Yeah, so that's the remaining money that we have. So it's mostly growth. We have to hire 3 people. Right now, we just had 2 people on our sales team, and we just hired 2 more, and we want to hire 2 more and hire someone else on the marketing team. Because right now it's basically the model that we have currently, it's working, and the idea is to keep scaling it. And then we do that, I free up my time a little bit more to focus on the next market. So we want to launch the second product by Q2 of next year, which is matching expert witnesses. It's something that we're not doing just yet. And of course, this demands, collaborations, meetings, and all the kind of stuff that right now we just don't have the time to do.
So I think you guys are going to make a lot of money on this. And the one of the things I can't really talk about is I see a lot of is clinical benefit potential, right? So I was hoping you're going to say, we're going to use our AI machine learning tool to prevent the medical errors. Is that on your roadmap?
Yeah, so that's something that right now we're talking to one hospital system, a big one in Boston, because we can train models to prevent them. And that's basically what we're doing. We're detecting where a mistake happened just in the past, right? After it happened, the mistake already happened. And the way we see this is the best data set in the world to train models to detect medical mistakes, because everyone is looking for medical mistakes, so they're labeled. So for deep learning models is ideal. But then once you detect medical mistakes that happened in the past, you can detect the ones that will happen in the future. And that's definitely where we're going. That's what we see the big vision of the company. We don't see happening realistically within the next 2 years, but we consider ourselves a deep tech company. So, this is kind of the deep tech side of it. It's a very challenging problem, but we believe that this data set is the best one for this.
Victor, I'm going to say something very cynical here about that, trying to play both sides of the field here. If I'm a hospital or a health system, and I know that your company makes most of its money off of doing this for litigators and people going after, making malpractice, the last thing I'm going to want to do is let you curate my data and mine it for insights about where medical mistakes happen. And I just want to understand how you think you would make that pitch, because it wouldn't make sense to not use it to make your system smarter. But doesn't that then give a lot of intel to the other side about where to look?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Actually, it's going to be one or the other. Yeah,
it's a question we get often, and I have a few thoughts on this. One of them is there's a few companies playing both sides of the space. Like Palantir, I think is a controversial one, but they're playing both sides, and sometimes governments, helping different governments that are competing understand their data, but also the medical space itself. Like you have medical expert witnesses, in which they actually, if they just play on one side, they're not believed because they're considered to be rigged, and they're always being played by the plaintiff or by the defense. So it's common even in this space. But the main thing is that, the product works and we're optimizing the plaintiff side. And I come from the defense side. All my friends are doctors, I taught in the hospital system. I would love to be able to optimize the hospital system as well. And the idea is to keep the data separate, right? So, what you help for one system, you don't actually help for the other one. And you cannot have conflicting cases, right? So if someone is, you have a case that, you're helping on the plaintiff side, you don't want to help on the defense side and vice versa. But I just feel like honestly, it's kind of a shame that you can, coming from the defense side, only help the plaintiff side. If we can help work on the defense side and help to prevent mistakes. And then that's why we're talking to insurance companies. So actually a part of an accelerator on the insurance space is an accelerator in Hartford, Connecticut. And their vision is that we can help them on the defense side as much as we're helping on the plaintiff side. So
That's
it's
great. That's 5 minutes. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Great job, Victor. I mean, this was
Thank you very
my first startup was in this space. I did that. I played both sides, wound up seeing my software used on both sides to fight and to defend. You know, so I think we can do a lot with you guys, just from our connections and our experience. But I think you made some great progress.
Yeah,
so
thanks so
judges,
much for having me.
If you'll take a moment to fill out section 2, and tell us what you think. Yeah, don't listen to anything I say. You know, I mean, it's more about what Victor has said. So great job, Victor. Stick around, and we'll give you the feedback later. So if everybody's ready, I see Livia is still looking down. Livia, you still doing the math? You ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
I'm turning off my camera, Alex. Stop looking at me. Anyway, so yeah, it's nice to have that little thing you can just click close open. But anyway, so yeah, some great stuff. I'm really looking forward to seeing the judges' feedback on this. Dan Rothman, you know, since he's been involved in managing so many practices, love to hear what he has. You know, attorneys who are here like Joe Daniels, it'd be great to see what you have to say about these guys. Okay, so assuming the judges are ready, one of the more exciting products that I think we've seen, and you know, if anybody saw my Jimmy Neutron nanobot post on Instagram, you know, I'm very excited about nanobots that can do cool stuff. Actually, Rob Skenazy and I, when we were just out of college, going into grad school, was one of the first ideas we banged around of creating hunter-seeker robots, or at least tags for gamma.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I remember that.
This is similar related idea, you know, 25 years later. So yeah, so it goes from spitballing to reality as usual. So if Rob, you want to take it away, I will shut up and let Heather start the timer.
Great, thank you very much, Alex. So hello everybody, I'm Rob Reynolds. I'm the founder of Elba Valley Medical. And as Alex mentioned, we're a micro-robotic cancer therapy. So every day we've got 22,000 people globally dying of cancer. Statistics show us that 1 in 4 of us will die of cancer at the moment. And we want to do something about that. We think it's fixable. So our purpose is to protect the people that we care about from cancer. It's that simple. So the niche for our therapy, we're looking at the largest and most aggressive tumors that are currently untreatable. Basically, any tumor with a necrotic core is ideal for our therapy, as long as it's a solid tumor, of course. And critically, we're coming in at a very, very low cost. So we would be providing this therapy in the United States for €6,000 per patient. It's a one-time treatment. And the way that the therapy works, I thought I had... yes, you lie on an MRI scanner, you get an injection intravenously into the arm, and you're placed in the MRI scanner. So during that time, we use this platform on the side to deliver RF to heat the necrotic tissue inside the body. And the way it works is rather simple. If this plays, the devices, they travel around in the blood, as you see here, with the red blood cells, they go everywhere. But inside the tumor with the necrotic core, the temperature rises to 41 degrees, and that's enough to trigger these microbots. So they open their arms, the cross-sectional size increases, and they can no longer fit through the blood capillaries. So what happens is they get stuck in the blood capillaries, and they embolize this tumor pretty quickly. So we're thinking about 30-minute treatment time, and the tumor is dead at the end. It's not dying, it's dead. The beauty of this treatment is, in conjunction with the MRI, we can both see the tumor, we can see the temperature of the tumor, but we can also see the accumulation of the microbots. So we can actually see the tumor die in real time in the MRI.
Wow.
We already have a preclinical trial done with mouse models in the University of Sheffield, using 2 different tumor types. We've been able to prove safety even in an overdose condition. So we simulated a condition where 20 nurses would have injected a patient back to back, and the patient was put beside a large radio transmitter where everything was activated. There was no adverse effects seen even under that condition. And we were able to also demonstrate efficacy in both mouse types as well. So the devices themselves, they're quite small. You can see on the left there the size of a human hair and the size of our microbot by comparison. And to give you an idea of how much is injected into a human, that's a 1 milliliter of material on that teaspoon. And we'll be going for 1/16 of that. That's the dry volume of microbots that a patient would be injected with. So very, very small amount. And this is kind of what they look like when they're activated and unactivated. After the therapy, they cool down, the arms will close and the blood supply returns. So this is the most exciting slide. This is my favorite slide. This was taken from one of the mice in the preclinical trial. And what you're going to see in this is you're going to see these dummy microbots actually accumulate inside the tumor tissue. If this plays, you can see it here. These are the luminescent spheres that we used, and this here is actually the tumor tissue itself. Let's see. So yes, we were able to demonstrate hypoxia in this tumor tissue. This was within 24 hours. We didn't see any sign of necrosis with the first tumor type, but that's because we didn't wait long enough. We found out later from an oncologist we should have waited a bit longer, but we did see hypoxia. And so we're planning to do a further animal trial with the commercial product that we're looking to bring out. This will be the product that we want to bring to market. Our plan then is to immediately enter the veterinary market, because one of the big pieces of feedback we've gotten from potential investors is need to see revenue quickly, please. So we're doing this trial in France with dogs with naturally occurring cancers. And that will open the door, of course, to a phase 1 trial after that. So the veterinary market is about $1 billion between Europe and the US. And we already have a distributor appointed for the veterinary product. So we have some big names there: Fraunhofer Institute, Pyrexer Medical, etc. And we have a great team. There's myself, Douglas, our CEO, Dr. Shalja Kumar is the head of R&D.
Heather, Heather, are we out of time?
Yeah, 5 minutes. Thank you. That was great.
Okay. So
okay, great.
So Rob, tell me about how just spend 30 seconds finishing. We'll let it go.
Okay. So we'll be expecting to be cash generating by 2022. We have a gross margin of over 70%. And then we go into a little bit about the revenue, because, you know, how we actually ended up with the revenue figures that we did. So to get to a revenue of 28.8 million.
It's okay. You can skip this part. I mean, it's all made up at this point anyway. Okay.
Alex.
Well, I mean, they don't have a product.
I know.
Okay, so Rob, you want to start out the questioning? Because I know you're chomping at the bit for this one.
Oh, I love this one. Is this shape memory alloys?
And no, we don't use.
Don't ask me to reveal anything critical, Rob. Come on.
What? The question goes to: are these FDA rated materials? I've only saw CAD. I'd love to see an image of an actual one. And the follow-on question is going to be: do they get stuck, or how sure are they that you can actually get rid of them after the treatment?
And they're not going to get stuck in like other hotspots, like, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
mini strokes, this type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
To answer the first question about the materials are mainly tungsten and PMMA, the polymer. The device then operates a little bit like a bimetal strip. So it isn't shape memory alloy. It's even simpler than that.
Okay.
The devices are basically stupid. There's no clever technology on board. We've kept it as simple as possible so that it's scalable and that it's low cost and it's easy to manufacture. The manufacturing process is from the 1990s, so it's been around a good while. So to answer the question about them getting stuck inside tissue, we simulated in the preclinical trial a similar situation to where a patient might be injected accidentally by 20 nurses back to back to get the dose up that high. And the devices we used were already activated. So we simulated where a patient was injected by 20 nurses and then placed beside a really strong radio transmitter. And we saw no adverse effects even under those conditions. So how did the devices come out? Well, we have designed them that they can stay in, but they can also be removed by filtering the blood with a magnetic filter. You pass blood through a magnetic sieve and the devices will stick in the magnetic sieve.
Yeah, but you were talking about 41C. I mean, aren't there other parts of the body that will be at 41C, you know, anisotropically?
So when you do, we're working with Pyrex or Medical. They have a treatment for heating tumors to make them more susceptible to radiation treatment and to chemotherapy. But the thing that's required is a necrotic core inside the tumor. And so it's a little bit like meat in the microwave. It heats up from the inside out. And so when our devices come near that tissue, they also embolize. And so the tumor dies from the inside out, and we can track that inside the MRI. Okay. Actually, both the accumulation of the devices inside the tumor and the increase in temperature of the tumor indicating that the tumor is dying.
Other than magnetic filtering, is there a biological method that these come out?
To make it really simple, it's a little bit like dialysis, except much cheaper. You tap into an artery, you pass the blood basically through a filter and back in through a vein, and the devices will remain inside that magnetic sieve.
Okay, questions from anybody other than Rob or I?
I have a question. Nowadays, especially for complex tumor, you do have a combination of both radiotherapy, surgery, and chemotherapy. Is the goal by using your technology to remove the three of them? You'll do a combination of everything.
It's to remove everything else, because chemotherapy has nasty side effects and so does radiation therapy. So all we're doing is we expose the patient to RF, and we also allow the clinician to take more of a risk. You know, at the moment, you need to err on the side of removing healthy tissue in order to remove all the cancer cells. But we're hoping we can move that story that a clinician can take more risk, because a reoccurring tumor is equally treatable, where it isn't with traditional EBRT.
That's great.
I'm a little surprised with that answer, just because I would think that the tumor burden, that there would be advantage of doing this early and then doing chemo for, especially if you've got microscopic seeding of the disease elsewhere, but not my specialty, just things I've heard about.
So that's correct. So we're on a personal level, I'm really interested in the late stage tumors, but the early stage tumors are equally valid. The reason why I'm interested in the late stage tumors is because there's nothing to treat in the late stage at the moment. And the burdens that we have to prove the therapy in that space are that much lower, if that makes sense. But you're correct. One of the ideal ways would be you take our treatment and then maybe a small round of chemo to clean up any cells that might be spreading through the body. But if that's not possible, our solution is wait till the tumors grow, come in on a Tuesday afternoon, get your therapy and go back to work.
I can imagine with some recurrent growth tumors that are, technically benign, but you can't really stop them. This could be something.
Last question.
Is this something that can be done on multiple tumor sites, or do you have to kind of do one at a time?
There's two configurations. One is where you can destroy all tumors with a necrotic core, but you can also just use them in dual heating mode, where you can use two beams that overlap, and you can use it for microsurgery. So you can use it to kill any tissue you want, not just cancer tissue in that mode.
All right, thank you. That was great.
Thank you very much.
Really fantastic job, Rob. Very, very exciting. And this is what we get into this for, right? I think going back to Rob and I, when his dad first was diagnosed with cancer, when we were in our 20s, this is exactly what we were looking for, something like this.
Did we miss something? Maybe I missed it. How much are we looking for to raise here?
Yeah, there wasn't a discussion of that. And also, what would you be investing in, since you have a bunch of other companies?
Well, everything. We're a company that builds companies. That's the way we see ourselves.
Rob, can you please answer that in the chat box? Just because screen time is kind of limited here. And,
yes, of course.
That's an important question, Paula, and that was on my list of questions. So one of the great things about the judging form is you can actually put in questions like that, like what would we be investing in? Because Elb Valley has a number of products, and as much as we're excited about this product, I don't know if we're excited about all of them. Maybe we would be, but I mean, that's a question. In any case, we love seeing what you're doing, Rob, and very excited. And it's, like I say, why we got into what we got into. So our next team Hopefully most of the judges have gone through and clicked on all their choices and what have you. Our next team is Gabby Smartcare and Jonathan Baut. How do I pronounce that, John?
Yeah, Jonathan Baut. Thank you. Lex.
So one of the great things about doing all these contests virtually, usually we go around different cities and meet people there, but now people are coming from around the world to our New York City based meetup group, and we love it. It's great, and it's also great to have attorneys like George Hasman, who's based in London. Granted, he's a real estate guy, but we've got an international team that can be involved. He's also one of our investors. So, so we're very excited about getting outside the United States. I think we have our first international investment actually in Barcelona with Your Coach, started by Marina and Eugene Brockovich. So it doesn't disqualify you guys from being in our portfolio. And we're glad to have you. Anyway, so John is going to talk about Smartcare, and Heather, whenever you're ready.
Ready.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it, John.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Baut, and I'm one of the co-founders of the company Gabby Smartcare. The first thing that you need to know is that I have a daughter, and 7 days after birth, she's been hospitalized for respiratory troubles. Luckily, she was out after two weeks. But basically, that experience just was extremely terrific. I mean, terrific in the bad sense, right? So it was traumatic for us. And when we came back home, we were very, actually very stressed by the situation. We were supposed to look after some symptoms, but we were just incapable of doing so just because we didn't have any background or any tools to do that. And actually, we even ended up back to the ER twice. Through that experience, we just realized that we were not the only ones. Like 38% of the kids in the US, for example, are visiting ER or admitted to the hospital every year. And yet 50%, at least 50% of these events are actually avoidable according to medical literature. That's one thing. But besides that, what's the most surprising is that when you look at all the innovation that is done on the adult side, you just realize that there is almost nothing on the pediatric side. Why this is clearly the period of your life where you're building yourself for the rest of your life. So this is when you're building things that are going to protect yourself for the rest of your life. And if you don't tackle these issues at the right time, then obviously that can easily turn into lifelong health issues. One of the reasons why this is happening, it's basically because all these health situations are just self-reported data, like parents are struggling to report conditions objectively. Some of the most common tests are not applicable on very young children. And all of these lack of objective data is clearly leading up to 40% of assessment errors and very long time of diagnosis period, like up to 3 years for some chronic respiratory conditions. So at Gabby Smartcare, we decided to bring all these objective data to all stakeholders by developing a hardware-enabled smart digital health platform that is dedicated to pediatrics in order to better prevent, diagnose, and surveil pediatric conditions. The fully integrated solution that we have built has been built around the cloud platform that is connecting the patients and also the healthcare professional. That cloud platform is HIPAA and GDPR compliant, and it's actually fed by a proprietary wearable medical monitoring solution like the band that is monitoring the main vital signs of the child. You also have an interface that is alerting the parent as soon as there is a life-threatening event, and it's also collecting some additional unstructured data to the cloud platform. And all these data are then processed with proprietary algorithms that are actually interpreting medically all these data to really deliver insightful information to the healthcare professional to make sure that he can better assess the situation, quicker assess the situation through this health assessment report. This is actually a problem that is affecting everyone. Like, you have more than 600 million children under 5 years old worldwide, and 250 million of them are visiting hospital or ER every year, out of which you have 150 million that are linked to respiratory disorders. And that's one of the reasons why Gabby Smartcare decided to focus their medical interpretation algorithms on respiratory issues. As you know, the adult market is already a proven market. You have a lot of solutions out there that is delivering a huge added value in the medical care for adults every day. The problem is that you don't have anything for pediatric yet. And actually the challenges are very different. If you put an adult solution on a pediatric on a young child today, it's going to return some false values just because it hasn't been developed for this. Well, first of all, you have the hardware that needs to be miniaturized. That's for sure, to suit really very young patient, which is something that Smartcare has done. But besides that, you also need to really work out your signal. So all these wearable solutions are delivering a specific signal, which is very different on the child from an adult. And so you need to have some specific development in terms of signal processing to make sure that you have reliable values. And to do this, we are working with children's hospitals in Europe, but also in the US. We have 8 parameters, which is enabling us to provide really a large scope in terms of medical assessment. And last but not least, we're currently working on some respiratory medical interpretation algorithms to really deliver the best values to respiratory patients. In terms of go-to-markets, we want to address 3 different, let's say, business line stakeholders. The first one is the researchers, because we have a partnership with Johnson & Johnson since end of last year, who are looking potentially for some kind of product like ours to accelerate drug development and transpose the clinical trials pediatric that are currently happening in hospitals and transpose them in a house. But we also want to deliver the value to hospitals and physicians for ER triage and so on, but also for early diagnosis and surveillance of conditions. And finally, we want to enter into homes to really empower parents to improve home management and prevent complications.
That's great. Thank you. That's 5 minutes.
All right. Okay. My bad. Sorry. Do you have any questions then?
The obvious financial questions would be.
Absolutely. Sorry. So we're currently raising 5 million euros since we have a solution that is currently working, fully functional, and that needs to be medically validated. We have a clear roadmap that has been put together by experts meaning like external companies, but also medtech entrepreneurs that are supporting us on a daily level. And to do this, we need 5 million to cover our next 24 months. We're going to get the 510K for this, turn one of our partners into B2B customers. And also we're going to go through product market fit validation studies with some hospitals. And that includes the Children's National Hospital that is based in Washington, DC.
Great presentation. Other questions?
Yes. In your opinion, should all babies wear it? And if it's the case, do you plan on having it reimbursed by insurance, or should it be out of pocket?
Right. My first answer is no. It should be used for medical purposes. We currently have identified several indications for use. One of them is clearly inpatient for ER triage, for example. But besides that, we've also identified some other indications like chronic respiratory diseases. And in Europe, you also have a specific category that's called children or newborn at risk that includes all congenital heart disease or respiratory tract infection and these kind of things, or very severe premature babies. And all these kids in some countries, and that's the case in Belgium, are per default monitored at home with very old solution today. And that's clearly one of the tools that we want to replace. And then is it going to be reimbursed? Sorry, the answer is yes as well. And I know that in the US, for example, you currently have some remote patient monitoring reimbursement within the Medicare system. We already have identified some codes in Europe and in the US for this.
Jonathan, who do you see as a key competition in this marketplace?
We have identified a few. We have identified companies like Baut, for example, in the US, that is developing a disposable system. So we are slightly different from this. We are we're focusing a lot on analytic, but besides that, we are a rechargeable solution aiming to make continuous monitoring. But clearly, this is one of the competitors we're seeing. Besides that, we have a few, we have another Taiwanese company that we have identified as well, that has developed a portfolio of remote monitoring solution. Once again, it's probably lacking from analytics, at least currently. And that's one of the area where we want to focus.
So one of the things that everybody, you didn't really mention payers and then people who are managing the risk that they always worry about is their $1 million babies. So how much do you think that this can actually prevent additional costs for those who are paying the bill?
Very good question. So if you look, I think one of the main things is like chronic respiratory diseases. If you take a child that doesn't succeed to keep the disease under control, it's going to cost around $2,000 more per year. And you have like 5 million children that are suffering from this. So if you make the maths, I mean, you have a huge gain by using solutions that can help you to manage chronic conditions. That's one thing. But then besides that, all of these premature babies or at-risk babies as well are currently, the monitoring system that I was talking about in Europe, for example, is costing today 4,000 euros for the system. Our system is at 500 euros. So it's already a big gain for hospitals, and you have a huge clinical outcome for the patients as well.
Okay, so I'm looking at the slide that you got interrupted on, the track record slide. So I'm not really sure where you are in the product. That one. So I see that you've been in the JLabs accelerator, whatever. Your product is fully functional, existing. You've got the device, works on preemies, everything already?
Yeah, absolutely. So the device, you see it here, is already FCC, NCE consumer compliant right now. And so we are now running some pilot trials with some children's hospital here in Europe, and we are getting into negotiation with the Children's National in Washington, D.C. to do the same.
It's exciting.
How big is this market? I saw some numbers going around, but I wasn't exactly clear.
It's pretty serious.
I mean, I know there's a lot of babies, obviously, but how many?
Insurance or risk-bearing entities here.
Yeah. So if you look at the pharmaceutical companies and CROs, you have about 1 million children that are enrolled every year throughout some business model that we are currently working at with our partners. We are reaching a $1 billion market globally. With hospitals and physicians, though, you have much more children there, and we still need to go through product market fit validation to validate business models that we have identified already, but we have a few and we need to validate them.
It does
That's
seem like
great. That was 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, so once again, if you have more questions for John and his team, please pump them in the chat. Rob has been doing that, so thank you, Rob. We also save all of that. Atisha, what's going on? You're not talking at all today.
I was gonna ask, but yeah, I'm gonna.
Well, since you haven't asked any questions so far today, please go ahead, ask a bonus question.
Yes. Okay. Real quick question: have there been any roadblocks so far?
Sorry, if we got any roadblocks so far?
Yeah.
30 seconds to answer, John.
Absolutely, yes.
The next team can load up.
All right. Yeah. Yes. Obviously, yes. We got some. Definitely to develop the hardware first. Also to validate the algorithms. Yeah, we have challenges at any step.
In terms of the patients,
patient adherence?
Yes.
Not at all. Actually, patients are very keen to use that kind of solution rather than what does exist today.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Great job. Really, really exciting stuff. Not just because, I know several children that spent time in there, including my son, in those situations, and also recent births. So,
thank you.
Anyway, so great job, and I'm sorry for the inspiration for this, but I'm glad that I think one of our early panelists, this woman Esther Dyson, maybe you guys have heard of her. She said something. So Esther, she was like, I wish more terrible things would happen to more amazing people so they would come into healthcare and help us fix this mess.
A little dark.
She's daughter of a physicist, so you know how those people get exposed to different types of personalities. Anyway, so the famous Dyson physicist. Anyway, and that's what happened to you. It happened to me. It happened to a lot of us in this room. And that made us decide to come into healthcare to come, cure cancer or help preemies or what have you. So thank you. I'm sorry, and and we look forward to helping you succeed. Okay, so now I think we're supposed to have a break now, right, Pat?
Yeah.
Okay. So but I also know that this winds up being a long event, especially with 9 or 10 companies and 10 minutes each. So so we could press on. We could do a quick break if you guys want. Anybody's doing money? So just a show of hands. Who wants to take a 3-minute break?
I just need to type.
What's up?
I just need to type some. I need a minute to type.
Oh.
Okay.
And Ross, can you play us? Can you do a musical interlude, Ross?
Ross, play us a song. Ross Martin.
I'm really good at typing and playing guitar at the same time.
It's a total tease. You got the guitar. You got to play the tune.
How about a poetry slam? Ross and I last year in DC did a poetry slam together. He was probably like the 3rd best guy there. I got a couple of snaps too, but I was like maybe the 6th.
You were great. You were very heartfelt.
Yeah, so that's everybody felt sorry for me. Yeah, that doesn't count. And yours was slamming. Yours was amazing.
Well, I had an audience that was receptive to what I was doing.
Well, yeah, knowing your audience is important.
There was your musical interlude. I'll sing.
And then there's the prescription drug company song. Anyway, so whatever you want to play for us, Ross, sorry, please take it away. And it's appropriate because the next team by Nick Johnson is actually about music therapy. So
you seriously want a song?
100%.
All right, I just wrote something. It's not really.
COVID ditty, no doubt.
Can we make
It's not about medicine. It's not about anything except just journey. So I'm trying to decide if it's called Mirror on the Porch.
Take the mirror off.
Or Give or Take, or something else. There's a mirror on the porch across the street from me, about my age, give or take a year or two. He's banging on his 6-string, fingers dark with nicotine, singing about a girl he never knew. Says his song is from his record full of number 1s, but the label won't release it till he's through. Says he's gonna get it done, then we'll see what he becomes, just as soon as he gets finished with his cigarette and brew. He swears that everything he's telling me is true. Give or take a truth or two. Give or take a truth or two. There's a mirror on the stage up on the TV screen, accepting the award for my big dream. He thanks God, his producer, and his family. His effortless eloquence is stealing the scene, and I'm whispering that could have been you. Give or take a break or two. Give or take a break or two. And the years go by, and the road grows long, and I wonder why this one is the road I'm on. And if I still knew now what was true back then, would my life somehow be a different, could have been? There's a woman in the mirror standing next to me, her reflection as familiar as my home. And I reflect on my collection of what might have been, and the love I might have never known. Give or take that first glance of you. Give or take that first dance with you. Give or take. this romance for two. And I just realized I didn't turn on original sound, so you probably didn't even hear half the guitar. Or no, I guess I did have it on.
We did.
Great.
I did have it on. Oh, yeah.
Weird
Great.
audio.
Yeah.
No. After we worked out getting you pinned to the top and taking off the shared screen, but yeah, no, that was fantastic, Ross. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
And
that's pretty new.
Thank you, Ross.
You just wrote it today.
Thanks for humoring me, Ross.
Okay.
Well, so we've actually been, we actually have another musician on board here, George Hatzman, and I were talking about doing something along these lines as well. George, are you paying attention, or is it too late?
I am paying attention, but that was a lot better than anything I can play, given that I've been playing the bass for about 3 weeks now.
All right.
Well, so yeah, so we actually
we're seeking $2 million in the first round, so.
For 3 weeks on the bass. So yeah, we were talking about doing like a music medicine mashup kind of event, you know, where basically jam session with a couple of people.
Let's do it.
With was the Donna Fernandez down in DC.
Yeah.
I remember her. So you actually started that project with
just
Donna,
as
right?
COVID, you know, canceled it all. That was one of the first things that got canceled when COVID hit.
Well, one of the things we always want to do in our space is, you know, set up a stage and, you know, always have amps and guitars and drums ready to go. So, you know, we can do that here, but, you know, we got the MIDI, you know, we got a drum pad. You know, it's about as much as we got there, and a mic. But anyway, so no, very exciting and glad to have you perform here. And also as a wonderful interlude while we all needed a little break from the pitches, but I think, and it's a great introduction to Muru music. So Nick Johnson, if you want to share your screen again. Thank you, Ross. Big round of applause for Ross Martin. That's fantastic. I love that. Always like to incorporate art into everything we do. Actually, one of the early leaders and actually on our board is Regina Holiday, who has
love her.
Does a lot of yeah, we all love Regina. Who does a lot of art, more painting style art, but she's an amazing public speaker, inspirational person, etc., etc. We've actually seen a number of companies in this space that Muru is working on, and we're excited to see somebody who looks like they're making good traction and progress. So if Heather and everybody's ready, let me go back.
Regina.
Oh, you have a jacket there? Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, so the walking gallery, a lot of us are members of the walking gallery, me, Ross, Paulo. Look at that. So you can see Paulo's jacket. Which, Paulo, do you want to tell the story of your jacket in 30 seconds?
I don't need to get time, but if you guys are curious about Regina, take a look at the walking gallery. It's custom tailored healthcare, how to personalize healthcare like you would personalize clothing for somebody. And Regina told my story, and it's all online if anybody's curious. Walking gallery.
Yeah, I call them superhero capes because, you know, as we go down our path from, you know, geeks to freaks to heroes, people like Ross who are physicians, and then they decide to go down the route of doing health IT and music and medicine. You know, people think that there's something wrong with them because they're giving up a good job being a physician or whatever to do something that, you know, they're passionate about. And the same thing with me being a scientist or whatever. And then eventually when you're successful, you know, everybody says you're a hero, but on the way, you know, you're not necessarily getting all the support, love, you know, help that you need, money. And that's one of the reasons we do what we do, is to help companies along. But the cape helps you, or the jackets help you tell your story. So if you go to a conference, you're wearing one of these jackets like Paulo's holding up, like I have several of them in my closet, that, you know, it helps you sort of get the word out and you know, but also people think of you as a freak, but that's okay. That's part of the process. This guy right here, Fred Trotter, Care Set, you know, is one of the best examples of that. A guy that everybody thinks, and probably still does think, is a little out there, but you know, he did a lot of important stuff, and now he's a hero to, you know, a whole generation of healthcare innovators, and of course to, you know, millions of patients that are affected by his efforts. Okay. and to the pharmaceutical companies that actually pay them. So there's that. Okay, so I will shut up about Regina Holiday, but if you want to find her, she's Regina Holiday with 2 L's on Twitter and every place else, and she's just amazing. We'll drop a link in there. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Thanks, Paula, for dropping that link to the walk-in gallery over there. So, okay. So timer, Heather, if you're yep, good, thanks. And Pat, you ready? Okay, so Muru Nick Johnson, take it away.
All right, thank you. Russ, you kind of did the pitch for me, so I can probably skip a few slides, so that's great. But my background is musicologist. It's something I've been studying for the last 18 years, and I particularly focused on the power of music for the brain and the body. And for the last 6 years, I've been trying to figure out how to best integrate that into new technologies. And that's where we came up with Muru Music Health. So founder and CEO, our company officially incorporated less than a month ago. So very, very new. I just got to see if I can actually, there we go. So essentially we are a new vertical in music streaming, and we are focused on the forgotten part of the population, which is the people over 60, particularly those experiencing cognitive decline. In order to do this, we partnered exclusively with Universal Music so that we would have a licensed music service that we could grow and scale globally. Now, the problem with aging, we all know that on the outside, there's very noticeable things like your hair turning gray or your body getting stiff. But what a lot of people don't know is that inactivity in the brain also causes brain cells to stiffen up and a whole bunch of other side effects as well. This is called brain aging, and it's actually very common. It happens to all of us as we get older. But on the one end, we have the, oh, where did I leave my keys? And on the other end, we have dementia, which is now a very, very big problem in society. Here in Australia, I'm based in Sydney. It's the leading cause of death for women at the moment. It's number 2 overall. And globally, it's in the top 3 in pretty much every country. So it's a big problem and it's growing. And in fact, today, there's over 600 million people that are living with some form of cognitive decline. Cognitive decline is a more clinical term. Brain aging is the more informal term. Of those 600 million people, 55 million are living with dementia, and these numbers are growing rapidly. The really important takeaway from that is the cost of care. Aged care is becoming too expensive. We're getting to a tipping point with aged care in general, but if we look at just the numbers around dementia, which is just a fraction of it, we're already reaching 1.5 trillion US a year, and that's growing again exponentially. The biggest problem here is that the moment somebody loses their independence because of brain aging, it becomes incredibly expensive, and it becomes a real burden on the healthcare systems and on the economies as well. So using dementia again as an example, and the reason we do that is because there's very specific numbers on this. There's 10 million new cases each year. This number is also growing exponentially. And the average cost of care for somebody that needs care is $27,000 a year. The majority of that cost comes from carers. So people being there to assist them with daily routines that are otherwise not necessary if they're still independent. So our mission is very ambitious, but it's very straightforward. We want to extend the independence of our aging population. Love the hat. But we also really want to improve health and happiness, because we know that will also significantly reduce the cost of care overall. And the way we're going to do that is with music. I kind of don't have to explain the benefits of music because we've just seen it. Even with one song, you're immediately feeling a little bit more relaxed. The beautiful thing here is, though, that what most people don't know is our brain and our hearing is always on. We have to process every sound that we hear. But unlike any other sound that we hear, when we listen to music, the entire brain is activated. All different regions of the brain that we know of, that we are able to measure on MRIs, are actually activated by listening to music. So emotion, memory, language, speech, they all have to work together to make sense of what we're hearing. That creates a lot of stimulation, and that is incredibly beneficial to people with cognitive decline. When we layer on top of that other things like playing your favorite music from your past, we can trigger certain types of memory, which activates other areas of the brain. So there's lots of benefits. I can speak from personal experience here because my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's. And towards the end, she didn't recognize anyone in her family. She was always very agitated and scared. And the only way we could kind of get her back was by playing her favorite music. It was the only thing towards the end, particularly. I built this platform for my parents. Initially, this was a passion project. I've been working in music tech for the last decade. My parents are the biggest music fans that I know, but they've stopped listening to music, not because they don't love it, but because technology is a problem for them. They're in their 70s. There's a barrier to entry. They struggle to find the music they need at the right time to be able to enjoy it, so they just don't. So we built a platform that is super easy, accessible as a...
Okay, so Nick, you're out of time.
Oh, sorry.
So just go through each slide for 5 seconds, just so we've all seen it all. Because you got a lot of material here still, but just try not to. It's going to take.
I'll do the bullet points. So it's a web-based service. It's licensed. It's affordable. It's very personalized. Our business model is memberships, subscriptions. We do B2C and B2C, B2B2C. The market size is very, very large. We have great traction talking with the NHS to do a pilot in the UK. We just soft launched here in Australia, donating 5,000 memberships with Universal Music. And we have first revenues. Bear in mind that we've been live for a couple of weeks.
What are you looking for investment? And what are you going to do with it?
Minimum 600K. And it's basically to grow out the core team to be able to scale here in Australia, launch in the UK in the new year, and then get ready for launch in the US at the end of the year.
Great.
Okay. You said that barrier entry is technology hurdle for the elderly. How does this alleviate that problem? Because it looks like it's still another computer thing. And I've elderly parents, and that is a huge burden.
Yeah, so if we look at music therapy today, then it's an entirely manual process. So at the very basic level, this is a tool for music therapists to be able to work with their patients remotely, which evidently with COVID has become very clear that that's a big problem. So that's one use case, but we've built it in a way so that families, so you could set this up for your parents, and then it's literally press play, and then it's done. So it's the easiest thing we could build with the technology that we have. And we've removed all the friction from search and everything else because it's around playlists. It creates three, relax, memory, and energize. And they're entirely personalized to you based on your age, where you grew up, what language you speak, and everything else. That's all done for you.
Do you have any plans for an appliance or tie it into Alexa or whatever so that this could be voice command or a push button command?
Yeah, phase 2 is actually integrating into this to wearables. One of our advisors is Dr. Michael Casey at Dartmouth in the US. We know that we can adjust the music based on your heart rate variability. So the next phase is to integrate this into wearables so that particularly for people with late stage cognitive decline who are no longer verbal, or in the case of Parkinson's, are not able to touch a screen, we can adjust the music accordingly. Phase 3 is integrating with voice-enabled devices like Alexa.
I don't see a lot. I mean, you refer to the clinical basis for this, but are you incorporating clinically proven protocols that will improve memory and things like that?
We don't market ourselves as a medical device, but we are doing research ourselves. So we actually won an award here in Australia. Federal government gave us funding for research, was put on hold during COVID, but is starting up again in January. And the validation around that is usability to measure the effectiveness of cost reduction in aged care settings. That's step 1. NHS want to continue that research to be able to see if they can roll this out nationally.
So Nick, in the US, you mentioned launching that. Good job, Nick. Paulo. You mentioned you're looking to launch in the US without any kind of clinical data. Do you expect any B2B to consumer, or is the consumer paying for this? Because without data, clinical data, I'm struggling with people paying for playlists.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And every market is definitely different. Obviously, Australia and the UK is more around public health, and the US private health. We found actually that the quickest uptake here is B2C of families just wanting to download this and set it up for their parents. That seems to be the least amount of friction. But with aged care and government here, it's about validating in user groups. So next month is a residential village in Adelaide. And based off of that, then it's sort of scaling it out with government. In the US, we actually think the biggest opportunity is with insurance companies and healthcare providers. But of course, we do need to be able to provide some validation there. But we like to think of our business more of a health space and medtech hybrid, if you will.
Are you thinking of going direct to consumers, caregivers immediately in the US? Or are you going to go down the path of developing evidence stuff? That's a very different ask. And the money you're asking for is not going to get you anywhere near there.
No. So this money is really for Australia and launching in the UK because our partner, Universal Music, wanted us to launch there yesterday. We can't do that at the moment. So we need money to be able to launch that. We will need to raise another round to be able to launch in the US, very clearly. That's by far not enough. We want to offer B2C and B2B because we see that there's a very big use case for both. And we obviously need to figure out which one is going to accelerate growth. We don't know yet.
That's 5 minutes.
Okay, so since your presentation didn't make it through in time and you cut into your Q&A time, that's 5 minutes. So,
all good. Thank you.
Really great job, exciting stuff. Want to see some more clinical stuff. So judges, if you'll take a moment to fill out your form, and everybody who wants to. I'd like to encourage all judges. Feel free to jump in with questions, and if you don't, if you're having trouble, just raise your hand. I can just ping me or whatever, and I'll try to shut up, or make some space. So in particular, I would have loved to hear, Dr. Zhang's thoughts on this as she's in mental health. So anyway, but you can always put the questions in the chat box and put your answers in there. So I think I've talked a little bit here in this space. So hopefully everybody's done with their judging forms. I know I am. Next up is called RxLive from Mark Engelen. And, there's a lot of ways to make money in the Rx space and a lot of things you can do better. We saw, good Rx, do very well in that space just by using bin numbers and things like that. I think Mark's going sort of in that similar direction, but, more getting the pharmacists involved, which everybody's been trying to work on for a while. So, so if everybody's ready, it looks like everybody's ready. I don't see a lot of people still writing. So Heather, if you're ready. Okay. So, hang on. Aren't you going to share your screen at some point, Mark?
I am. Hey, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, Alex?
We can hear you. Your time begins now.
Wonderful. So good evening. Mark Engelen, RxLive. We're based out of St. Petersburg in the Tampa Bay market in Florida. And we are passionate advocates for the role of clinical pharmacists actually outside of the retail pharmacy. We think that in a value-based healthcare world, pharmacists are some of the most underutilized resources, and their direct involvement in team-based clinical models is incredibly powerful from both a clinical outcomes perspective as well as a financial perspective, such that for every dollar spent on intensive pharmacy counseling models, there's about an 8x return. So at RxLive, we're actually completely disconnected from dispensing. We don't make money out of dispensing drugs at all. And as such, we're very aligned from a business model perspective in a value-based world. So at our core, we're a technology-enabled marketplace of part-time clinical pharmacists, and we integrate that clinical capability directly with risk-bearing physician groups and other healthcare actors. And the way that the model works is that patients are introduced by the physician. They then talk to an RxLive clinical pharmacist over the phone or video for about 30 or 45 minutes. This model is actually reimbursed completely by Medicare, Medicare Advantage, and commercial insurance plans, as well as self-insured employers. And from a business model perspective, we pay our pharmacists per piece, shift all the operational risk to that distributed network. But we're much more than just a technology-enabled service. What we've also done is built a completely proprietary technology stack. Think of it like a clinical electronic health record for this type of pharmacy work, in which we collect and then de-identify clinical, behavioral, and in some cases even genomic data, as well as unstructured and structured data from both the video and the audio feeds for the telehealth visit. What we then do is use machine learning and other advanced clinical algorithms to essentially predict pharmacy interventions and medication compliance. We then automated and customized the patient and provider communication and recommendations We've obviously integrated telehealth into this. And essentially what we're doing is using our human cloud of pharmacists to develop and refine these machine learning protocols in close to real time. And so the market for this new kind of role and services, what we call value-based pharmacy, is about $5 billion, and we expect it to double over the next 5 to 6 years. And currently, the typical path for these types of pharmacy counseling models is very insurance heavy and payer down. And we see a huge opportunity to leverage and really collaborate directly with risk-bearing provider groups and employers and penetrate the market from the bottom up. And the reason why we think this exists and why this business model makes so much sense now is because Medicare has really strongly signaled and put their money where their mouth is around reimbursement pathways for pharmacy. And also there's some CMS innovation demonstration projects that mandate the involvement of pharmacists in based models in this way that have been launched in 2017 and are expanding in 2021. So from a progress perspective, we've been around for a couple of years in pilot mode, but really started our go-to-market strategy in Q4 of last year. And we've grown 10x this year and then expect to double and triple the business over the next couple of quarters through 2021. We've got some deals worth over $1 million to $1.5 million in top line revenue already booked with some of the largest health systems in the country and some of the most progressive risk-bearing physician groups across the country. And not only for the services piece, but also for our SaaS technology platforms, like the University of Hawaii's College of Pharmacy is going to be using that, as well as Upward Health in the managed Medicaid space. So it's a really exciting time for us. And part of the reason for all of this growth is because of a stakeholder experience that looks like this, where from a patient perspective, we've got a huge, high NPS score. We're saving anywhere from $50 to a full $1 a day per patient. From a clinician perspective, we're saving time, driving meaningful revenue and improving outcomes, and obviously saving the payer a tremendous amount of money. We've got clinical evidence that we've shown statistical significant decreases in admissions as well as readmissions in our engaged population, and we're driving meaningful medication changes that summarize up to about a 10x ROI globally for our risk-bearing provider accounts. From a founding team perspective, I'm the CEO, but we're a couplepreneur. So my wife and co-founder is our chief pharmacy officer, went to the top pharmacy school in the country. I've got a deep background in healthcare IT and the business of pharmacy, and I'm a Harvard Business School graduate. And we've recruited a great investor team, principally of angels and friends and family from some of the logos that we share below, but a veritable who's who in terms of healthcare and value-based medicine. We've raised about $1.85 million to date, and we're looking to raise an incremental $1 million in a bridge financing round. And so in summary, we think that we're building a brand new market for value-based pharmacy and have really a unique approach to target kind of the medication management challenge, working directly with care management teams in a very provider-focused model and a very patient-centered way to think strategically about the role of pharmacy. And with that, I would love to open it up for questions.
All right, it's 5 minutes. Thank you.
Wow, perfect. I love that somebody actually got the timing right. Also, the timing, I don't think I've actually seen this particular approach to, it's a very innovative model. So with that, I'll open up to questions from the field. Paulo, Kat?
So does a pharmacist work on their own time, or is it a set schedule?
It's scheduled. So the way that we work is that we integrate directly into the provider's population health strategy. So we center our pharmacist interventions around upcoming office visits. So our pharmacists are all 1099, they work part-time, but they devote about 10 hours a week to RxLive, and they input their calendar digitally. And then we have a team as well as a direct scheduling application that allows the patient to book it in their own time and location.
What is their access to the EHR?
I'm sorry, the EHR question?
Yeah, the access to their, talk about how they access the clinical record and provide input into
it. So we built the application as a fully open API with FHIR standards. Today, we principally get given access to the EMR directly. And so we're sharing all of the clinical summaries through CCDAs and other exports directly into the RxLive application. It's typically through a VPN-based login, but essentially we have a care management team that aggregates that data and shares it with the pharmacist. We've also got a direct interface with SureScripts, so we're getting the full pharmacy adjudication history and then triangulating multiple data sources to get to the med reconciliation.
From a patient perspective, they will go then to you, but then they will have to go to a second pharmacy as well to get the medication? Is that?
Yeah, we're reframing the role of the pharmacist, right? So one angle for pharmacy is clearly dispensing drugs, but we think there's much more clinical value for pharmacy integration into team-based models. So our pharmacists, again, meet with patients before their upcoming office visit to really strategically look at ways to enhance their medication regimen clinically, behaviorally, and financially. And then with that insight, the physician makes those change recommendations. And then don't really care where the patient picks up their drugs. We can even help them switch pharmacy if that's the access challenge that's driving it. And so again, we're completely agnostic as to where they pick it up. And this is a service-based model prior to their visit.
Mark, great job. Love what you're doing. Just curious, give me your thoughts around how this bumps into what's happening with formularies.
So we actually work directly we've got some three-way relationships with Medicare Advantage plans and risk-bearing provider practices. Every customer we work with, we actually align the pharmacy recommendations with the formulary of that particular patient. So again, in interface with SureScripts, we do research and due diligence on formularies prior to and integrate that insight into our tool. And so again, we're completely aligned with the PBM from a philosophy and also from a economic perspective. We're driving people to mail order, we're switching to generics, and so there's no incompatibility in the business model.
Could you maybe comment a little bit about any IP you may have and what keeps somebody else from doing this service?
Yeah, so again, obviously the core service I think could be replicated by any pharmacist, and that's why we built on the technology. So the EHR that we eventually built is a completely proprietary software tool. And we've gone that next level to really start to build out some of these algorithms. And we're in the process of evaluating IP protection around the data science and around kind of that machine learning and then the eventual AI that will couple it.
It's almost like it's like a gypsy cab company that would be competing with Uber, though. I mean, you have a platform, not the individuals. I mean, your real competition are other players in the space. Do the consultative pharmacists work for you guys? Do you guys treat them as your providers, or are they a bunch of independents, 1099s?
Yeah, they're independents, but we treat them, we train them. There's a whole sort of continuing education model. We actually think there's a great growth expansion to franchise this model and turn our independents into franchise sales reps in a way and help them build their own kind of businesses and markets around this model. So there's a couple of really interesting go-to-market strategies that can leverage community pharmacies, independent 1099 pharmacies, and ultimately, as we scale, we do envision bringing on W-2 pharmacists as well.
The chain and independent pharmacies have been wanting to elevate themselves out of just pill counting forever. Yep. And why are they not going to be doing, why wouldn't you be selling this to them directly?
So part of our model, as we anticipate our go-to-market strategy, is to do that. So we're talking to Cardinal and some other folks about using them as a distribution channel to that network. But we are actually inundated with pharmacy supply that we don't need that, right? So we actually leverage and sell directly to risk-bearing physician entities. And so it's a slightly different way that we're starting the go-to-market strategy, but that's clearly part of the growth path.
That's 5 minutes. Thank you.
Great job, Mark. One of the problems here that, as I'm sure you guys understand now, after you've seen these, especially to the new folks, it's so hard to pick which of these companies is the best, right? I mean, they're all very exciting. They're all very interesting. That's why, I need everybody's help, and I appreciate, all the judges' input, because honestly, I would love to invest in almost every single company I've seen today. So, I mean, that's just me maybe, but as I do have a fund to run and I have to be responsible with the capital, I appreciate everybody's help in helping us figure out the first pass. But Mark, I'm definitely very excited about what you guys do. I don't think I've seen this model before, which is unusual because we see, thousands of companies. So it's refreshing.
Well, thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
There's a bunch of questions in the chat too for you.
Yeah, don't forget. And you can download those, and there are going to be some in the judging forms and things like that. So yeah, anytime you have something new and creative like this, there's going to be a lot of questions. So, okay. So our next presenter, let me just finish my section, finish my judging. Hey, Joe Dangles, are you actually there?
Cecile.
What? Not Cecile.
Let me do that.
So any of you who got my clickbait, magic wand for COVID detection, that's who's coming up next. So Cecil, if you want to share your screen. Yeah, actually, he was broadcasting earlier today, seems like 2 days ago, but from his laboratory. So you actually get to see Cecil, pan a little bit to your right so we can see the scopes and all the equipment. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so it was good to see. Anyway, and that is the idea, to get ideas like Cecil's out of the lab and out into the market. So we're very excited to see what he has to say. I had to go actually pretty deep into the science on this one before I would even believe that it was possible. I'm still not 100% sure about it, but that's why you guys are here. So he also has a project on MedStarter. So if you look on the homepage of MedStarter, at the top of the homepage, you'll see his PathoProbes and PathoWAND. As a pathology PhD dropout, pathology is always very interesting to me. Also, some physics in there. So this really hits me in a lot of sweet spots. But anyway, so I assume that I've blathered on long enough that you guys have done with your judging. You're ready for the next one. So Heather, if you're ready. Wow, a graphics card. I haven't seen a graphic. You might need to upgrade your PC there. I'm just guessing, Cecil.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're ready, Cecil, take it away. Timer's ready.
Okay. What I would like to do today is introduce you to a very novel set of testing devices for respiratory infections, both bacterial and viral. And the ability to have such a device, especially in this pandemic, will you be able to open restaurants, sporting events, entertainment venues, etc. Any place where there's large gatherings, you'll be able to test whether the people have an infection, either positive or negative, within about 10 seconds of applying the device. Now, as you know, tracking and tracing is a really hard problem, and this device does it actually automatically. This device has a unique feature to it. I don't care what respiratory virus, I don't care what bacteria, I can reprogram it to detect and track that particular microorganism. It doesn't matter what it is because we have an AI system that allows that to happen. This is all based on something called Raman spectroscopy. Raman invented this back in 1928. He got the Nobel Prize for it in 1930, and it's based on a very, very simple operation. I shine a light on a microorganism, a surface, anything that's molecular based, and I get scattering of that light representative of the spectrum of that particular microorganism or substance. And that spectrum is unique for each microorganism because its molecular structure is different. So essentially, you shine light on it, you get a reflection back, which is called Raman scattering. You analyze that spectrally, and you can determine what microorganism it is, how much of it, how large a load, etc. So we have come up with something called PathoProbe. This is a probe that you insert into the oral cavity or in the nasal cavity, pointing at the ACE2 receptors. And these are the receptors that manifest themselves in these viruses and the various bacterial infections. And when we do the common swabs that you've all heard about, that's what they're doing. They're swabbing these surfaces of these receptors, and then they go through a chemical process to determine whether you're infected or not. Our probes have no chemical processes. Our probes have no chemical anything. It is just light-based. The one that we're most proud of is called the PathoWAND. This is a personal use device. In other words, everybody on the planet can have one. It is linked to their cell phone. They put it in their oral cavity, hit the app, it downloads the data through the cell phone to a remote cell site where it is processed by AI algorithms, and the results is returned back to the cell phone. Everybody could have one of these. So you would know at any point in time whether you're infected. No chemical processes. You can use the thing over and over again, tens of thousands.
Cecil, you have less than a minute left. You might want to get to the point.
Yes, yes. This whole thing is, the science is real easy. In A, you see a normal person with no dengue virus. On the right, you see the spectrum of someone with the virus. AI can easily determine that you have it.
Got it. Next.
I'll go skip the AI part of it. We have a remote cell site that processes all of that. The performance, you can detect these things with 97% accuracy. It can be reprogrammed for any future pathogens. It's real-time identification. 10 seconds or so, you know the answer. No swabs, no reagents, no test results delayed. It's all AI based.
Okay, Cecil, that's 5 minutes. So I'm going to direct a few questions now.
Okay.
Cecil, does this exist? Can you show me the device?
We have a breadboard. The actual devices are being made in Atlanta, Georgia. But we have breadboards.
When will you have production devices? Or at least prototypes? I mean, does your breadboard version work now?
Well, yes. Look, the probe, we have a breadboard and a system already working. The wand is a miniaturization problem. That wand is the size of a tongue depressor. So that's what we're raising money.
And Cecil, what's the efficacy? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to get through this.
97% accurate in identifying the pathogens.
In identifying COVID, you guys have the AI trained already?
Oh yeah, well, they're doing it in a lab in Galveston, Texas. You need a BSL-4 lab to do that. But the COVID is so easy to detect. It is so distinctive. Its molecular structure is such that I would guess we'll never miss on finding it.
When do you think you can bring this to market, Cecil?
We're shooting for 6 months. Okay. But remember, what we're trying to do is we're not going to bypass the various hurdles. We want to get this thing FDA approved.
Okay.
And so we're raising money to do phase 1 through 3 FDA clinical trials.
So tell me, Cecil, tell me about your monetary needs. What kind of investment you're looking for?
Phase 1 is $6 million. Phase 2 is $12 million. Phase 3 is $35 million.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I mean, Cecil, great job. I'm confused. You're raising a lot of money. You're taking it all the way through, and you're going to raise $20+ million, and you're going to get it out in 6 months.
No.
Sorry, I thought I heard you say you're going to have it in market in 6 months.
I thought your question was when will we have prototypes? We'll have prototypes in 6 months. We're going to apply for an EUA. We're going to do it. Actually, I have a contract to use this in some animal studies already. It's about a $14 million contract that will allow us to prove that this works. And the animals we're going to use, you probably heard about, are minks.
Hey, Cecil, just out of curiosity, is there any potential harm from this light being bounced off of you? I guess I'm a little confused why it would take anywhere near the time we're talking about, because if there's no negative side effects, why isn't something going to be fast-tracked within a year?
That's not the only problem. If you create a device that is going to tell a person whether they are positive or negative for a pathogen, that is a medical
Yeah, it's not just for informational use, Paulo. I mean, he's got
I'm not debating that, Alex. Given where we're at with the pandemic.
Yeah, but class 1, people are skipping class 1 all the time. You know, phase 1.
Well, now I'm MD myself, and I want to take this through the regular clinical trials process. We will apply for an EUA at phase 1. However, if you give false negatives, you're doing the patient harm. This thing has to be very accurate and should go through the same trials as a drug, because the people will depend on it. And if you're wrong with the answer, they can end up dying by not knowing that they have the virus. So this has to go through phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. We'll apply for the EUA as early as we can in phase 1, but I'm not willing to just throw this out to the market and say,
okay, so you got about 30 seconds left. So are there other questions? Any of the engineers in the family here? Atisha?
Yes, I have a question. I've seen other approaches like this in the past, and they didn't make it past the bench because there just wasn't enough signal. When you're going to look at something like this, you're taking a very small sample, and you're going there. You know, somewhere in here there needs to be a very large amplifier.
Well, let me explain how that's done.
Yes,
There's
please.
something called micro Raman spectroscopy. You have to find the irradiation wavelength that multiplies the Raman scattering by 1,000,000 or more. So we tune this thing with a variable wavelength laser till we get that frequency for that particular pathogen. Each pathogen is going to have a different, unique frequency that causes that multiplication.
So Cecil, you're out of time.
I'm okay with the uniqueness of this frequency. It's just the amplification and
Rob.
Yeah,
he's out of time. So Rob, I actually read a paper or two on this to approve them. I'll send them to you. So
micro Raman specificity, is that it?
Yeah, to how he's amplifying his signal so he gets it.
Yeah.
You're right. It's only -7, you know, of the responses are going to be Raman spectroscopy. Anyway, so I read through a bunch of that stuff and we can talk about that. But anyway, so we do need to get on to the next presentation. So great job, Cecil. And if you guys have questions, further questions for Cecil, please put them into the chat box or into your form and we'll make sure they get to him. Very exciting stuff, Cecil, and I think we'd love to see you guys successful and be able to help you along the way. So our next presenter is CMTx Biotech with Joe Scaduto. So if you want to share your screen, Joe, there you go. So judges, if you'll take a moment and finish up your section 7, we've got 2 more to go, and then we're going to do some quick data. Pat's going to lead a discussion while we do that. I don't know what the topics are, but I'm sure he came up with some good ideas. So this is going to be Pat's first time moderating a discussion, so be gentle with him. I'll be doing data analysis. So judges, please just make sure you're going forward and doing all your stuff. So I have a lot of data to work with other than just mine and Pat's and Paulo's and the folks who are here all the time. And I just also want to say thank you to Paulo. I think this is like your 10th event that you've been helping judge, so you're awesome. Atisha, I think, is on 6. We actually have a whole partner program this year where we'll be giving out shares in the GP. That's the fund management company that when these companies blow up, earns good shares. So by being judges and mentors in the network and by being dedicated to the cause, you don't just get to see amazing things and be inspired all the time, but you also might actually earn shares in our fund. So so you guys are super well appreciated. Okay, so that should be enough time for you guys to be up to the ready for the next presentation. So timers, if you're ready.
Alex, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, did you say something? No,
it's Joe Scaduto, CMTx Biotech. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just messing.
Great. Just making sure.
So, okay, so timers, if you're ready, take it away, Joe.
Great. Thanks so much for the opportunity to present CMTx Biotech. My name is Joe Scaduto, co-founder and CEO of the company. We're looking to raise about $5.5 million to commercialize a clinical stage, orally available small molecule drug candidate for the treatment of hospitalized COVID-19 patients. So I don't have to tell you that COVID-19 is a global pandemic with high hospitalization and mortality rates. In fact, I just got a CNN alert here in the United States. We just hit just short of 100,000 patients in the hospital. What you may not be familiar with is that COVID-19 infection leads to a host-mediated multifactorial lung injury and death that's caused primarily by the hyperinflammatory response to the viral infection. So the CMTx Biotech solution is to rapidly commercialize a phase 2 ready, orally administered small molecule drug candidate that resolves and normalizes that inflammatory response to the infection, mitigating acute lung injury, reducing hospital stay, and improving mortality. Lead drug candidate is called Nicc. It's been already tested in a whole host of preclinical animal models of acute respiratory distress syndrome across 4 species: mice, rats, pigs, and sheep, with a variety of triggers to cause that lung injury, with very impressive efficacy in these models. And the drug has already completed multiple phase 1 and phase 2 clinical studies by a previous corporate sponsor in dermatology and oncology. CMTx Biotech has secured the rights to the proprietary preclinical, clinical, and CMC data from the previous sponsor. So over the next number of months, with the funding we're looking to raise, again, $5.5 million, we're working to engage the FDA in a new pre-IND meeting and submit a new IND focused on COVID-19 and hospitalized patients, secure the necessary GMP grade drug substance and drug product for execution of a phase 2 human clinical trial that we hope to conclude by the end of 2021. I should mention we've already identified the previous manufacturers of the drug product and have proposals from them to move forward. COVID-19 remains a critical issue globally. These numbers are actually a month old. I think we're up to 267,000 deaths in the US alone, and tens of millions of people infected worldwide. And as I mentioned, hospitalizations continue to rise, with about 98,000 in the US just today. This gives you a sense of the role that host inflammation plays in the progression and severity of the disease. So we are not an antiviral. We are resolving the host inflammation that results in lung injury, multiple organ failure, and death. So it's, again, an orally administered small molecule with impressive preclinical data, multiple phase 1 and phase 2 clinical studies already conducted, very well tolerated in these patient populations, with the most common side effect being that of phototoxicity, which is why the drug was abandoned as a dermatology product. Very well established chemistry manufacturing controls. It's a 2-step synthesis process. It's a multi-target pleiotropic mechanism of action to resolve inflammation, protect lung tissue from lung tissue damage, and promote tissue regeneration and healing. Our market exclusivity strategy includes the new chemical entity regulatory exclusivity the FDA provides. This drug has never been approved for any indication previously. New method of use intellectual property filed earlier this year, and we have a 2-year exclusive relationship with the previous corporate sponsor for the proprietary access to all of the data around this molecule. And our plan is to move aggressively into a phase 2 clinical study in recently hospitalized COVID-19 patients. This is a summary of all of the animal studies that have been conducted to date across multiple species, demonstrating efficacy to prevent acute lung injury. And I just wanted to show you one example. This is in a pig model of a 2-hit injury to cause acute lung injury. On the right is the totally decimated lung and the untreated control. On the left, this is a single oral dose given 12 hours before injury, where acute lung injury was completely prevented. In addition, there have been 2 computational studies done earlier this year indicating that Nicc is a top candidate to be repurposed for the treatment of COVID-19. I already talked about our market exclusivity strategy, so in the interest of time, I'll just give you a sense of our development time frame over the next year to move forward to market, to the completion of the phase 2 human clinical trial.
That's 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job, Joseph. Curious, have you spoken to any pharma companies? If so, what have they said?
You know, we're constantly looking for a potential partner. There's clearly a lot of competition for COVID-19 assets and interest by big pharma. We've been in diligence with a couple that, you know, have internal programs that were competing. So unfortunately, we didn't make the cut. We believe that with the phase 2 human clinical data, however, we become an incredibly more attractive acquisition target or licensee to one of those companies. I'll just note that Merck just this past month announced a $425 million acquisition of a company called OncoImmune that did a 200-person clinical study in COVID with their asset, which is a biologic, not a small molecule, has some significant production and cost limitations that our drug is much more advantageous. So the exit opportunities are significant with the clinical data in hand.
Joseph,
did you say you developed this? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the pharma companies you spoke to, did they say, call me later? Or they said, no, just stay away?
Everyone always says, call me later. They, you know, keep me posted. But you know, it's always hard to gauge what the real level of interest is.
Is this a drug you developed or a drug that you're repurposing from somewhere else?
So we've acquired the asset from the previous corporate sponsor that had advanced it into phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials for dermatology primarily. As I mentioned, phototoxicity was one of the common side effects, and so they abandoned the program. And so we filed new intellectual property covering the novel use of this drug for the treatment of illnesses associated with coronaviruses and other pandemic viruses, swine flu, avian flu, and the like, as well as other potential indications. And again, we're going to leverage the package that we've been able to acquire from the previous sponsor, as well as the publicly available preclinical data in ARDS to advance into the clinic. And the last thing I'll mention is we've talked to 2 regulatory consultants. Both have looked at all the data we have on the molecule, and both have confirmed that we should be able to move immediately into a phase 2 clinical trial in this patient population.
I have a quick question.
I guess, what is your timeline? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering what your timeline looks like in terms of this phase 2 and potential acquisition relative to these vaccines that are getting approved and, you know, could potentially reduce your market.
Yeah, so I think if we were to be funded soon, we could complete the phase 2 human clinical trial by the end of 2021. There's a lot of excitement around the vaccines that are being approved. I'll just note that the efficacy data is in a very small patient population relative to the total clinical trial population. Only a couple hundred infections are showing the difference, and it's at a very early time point. Even folks who have gotten the virus itself are showing a reduction of antibodies within 6 months of infection. There's still a really big question about the long-term immunity and protection of these vaccine candidates. I'll use seasonal influenza as a model. Seasonal flu, which we have many vaccines for, still sends more than 500,000 people to the hospital every year with 20,000, 30,000, sometimes 40,000 deaths on an annual basis. This drug could also be useful for them, although our IP is pretty specific to these pandemic viruses. Clearly, all-cause ARDS is the broader market opportunity beyond COVID. So we think there's going to be an ongoing need for therapeutics despite the fact that there are vaccines being brought online. And I think that'll likely prove out as.
But Joe, you got 1 more minute. You might not want to spend the whole minute answering that question. Are there other questions?
I had a quick question. You mentioned that it's preventive. So does it work as a vaccine or?
No, this is for, this is a treatment for hospitalized patients in an effort to mitigate further progression of the disease. We want to keep people off of the ventilator, out of the ICU.
So Joe, you say it's a pleiotropic resolution of systemic inflammation. Are you saying that this is an anti-inflammatory? You also talk about it being in gene expression. How does it work?
So it's a multi-target mechanism of action. The drugs were originally designed as matrix metalloproteinase inhibitors, but multiple studies over time have demonstrated that both cellular and molecular markers of inflammation are resolved. I don't want to call it an
You're not
anti-inflammatory.
exactly sure, but it seems to hit a bunch of different spots.
We are sure. There's a ton of publications. It's just multi-target.
Yeah. Okay. So we're at
Have you looked at it for other inflammation, joint inflammation, arthritis, anything like that?
Rob, we got to stop. We only have 10 minutes per company. I know.
So you get your questions and no one else gets it?
Pretty much. That's how it works. This is my show, man. No, I am fair. I try to be fair. It's actually my name, right? So we do try to keep it to 10 minutes each, but that is why we have the chat box. So you heard his question, Joe, and there's a ton more questions I'm sure going into the chat box now because everybody's very excited about what you're talking about.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
And honestly, so this is really just the preliminary phase, guys. So, if this goes well and you do well in the contest, then we invite you in, we talk to you for hours. I mean, so and Rob is part of those conversations sometimes, and as are a number of the other mentors here. So it's very exciting stuff. So I'm gonna go fill out my form, which I haven't done at all yet. So if people want to ask questions and answer questions in this 30 seconds while I'm filling out my form, you guys can do that. Or not. I've appropriately disabused everybody of going over the time limit.
Traumatized.
Yeah, exactly. I do that. You should see how my ex-wife feels. She gives it as well as she takes it. Okay, fundability. I don't know. Scalability, that's obviously huge. Okay. Okay, I'm done. Hopefully everybody else is done too. And we have got one more presentation. So I'm going to look around and see if any of the judges, you guys need any more time. Everybody. Looks like you guys are mostly done. Excellent. Okay, very exciting stuff. I mean, like I say, every single one of these teams is exciting. Okay, so if the timers are ready, and if Stan, oh God, that can't be his name. Marrett's website. Oops. Stan Marrett from MR3 Health Incorporated. I'd just like to note that I owned 2 MR2s. So of course, MR3 of course got my attention, thinking that, oh, there's a new Toyota sports car or a pseudo sports car. Anyway, so saving lives, lowering costs. So if you guys are ready, take it away.
Thanks, Alex. Can you just give me a thumbs up? You can hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. You want to turn on your video?
No, that's intentional. I wear bifocals and I can't see my own screen if I turn the camera on. So
okay,
I'll turn it on after the presentation for the Q&A. But anyway, thanks for the opportunity to talk about the MR3 and remote patient monitoring and the way we go about it and some unique things that we bring to the table. So we're focusing on chronic diseases as what Medicare is focused on in terms of preventing people from going to the ER and getting hospital admissions. And it's all about prevention and trying to do that in a way and doing it at home and not requiring doctor visits or face-to-face. So this is not telehealth, this is telemonitoring for a distinction if you're not familiar with remote patient monitoring. So our name, MR3, is monitor, report, respond, and remediate. That's our approach to handling these chronic patients. And some things that are unique about us is our delivery service is a full service suite. There's a lot of technology and a lot of human touch, hands-on call center activity that bring this to the table. We have a unique Class 2 FDA cleared medical device for monitoring diabetic feet issues, which we can talk about a little bit. And then our sales and marketing plan is pretty unique as well. So what are the 4 chronic conditions? This is what Medicare cares about. They want to keep these people with these conditions out of the hospital. And that's why they're willing to pay doctors to help make that happen. And so, this is the device that I talked about, our own proprietary device, which we can talk more about later, but I just want to flash it up to you. This is our workflow. So you take the device, collect the data wirelessly at the home, send it to cloud database. If conditions are outside norms, it generates alerts to the clinicians to respond. And then the flip side of the coin is if they're not compliant with their activities, the patient, then we get another kind of alert that goes to the call center to engage with the patient, find out if they're having equipment problems or personal problems or dog problems or whatever problems that would keep them from continuing with the process. So that compliance loop is a really important part of what we deliver. The market, remote patient monitoring, projected to be $2 billion by 2027. What we bring to the table is improved care for the patient, reduced costs for the health system, and what I want to talk about next is the increased revenue for the physician. So the business model is Medicare pays the doctor, and the doctor pays us, and we grow the company and increase value. So these are the codes, the CPT codes that Medicare has approved for remote patient monitoring. And what we try to do, you could have 3 of these in a month. So it's a monthly recurring revenue stream. And our goal is to achieve 2 or 3 of these codes here on the lower right-hand side for each patient each month. So what does that mean to the doctor? Well, if he's got 100 patients in our program, he could put an extra $60,000 in his pocket. Our sales strategies use strategic advisors like physicians that we already have in our network who are out promoting it to their network. We have channel partners, other businesses that are in this space, and the one that we're spending a lot of time on these days is the accountable care organizations, the ACOs, because you can get a lot of doctors with a single contract, maybe 50 doctors in a single ACO, and so a very efficient sales model. Where we are as a company, we've done all the heavy lifting. I mentioned FDA cleared for our own device. Some of the devices we're buying off the shelf, but we're generating revenue. Well, we've got a potential exit value about 34x, 5-year out revenue projection about 140 million. This is our raise. We're looking for $500,000 to get us to cash flow break even, which would occur in about Q2 of next year.
30 seconds left.
And the use of that $500,000 would be in this pie chart, and the main thing to point out is inventory. So we need devices in order to get these out to the patient so that we can be generating the revenue. Our team, myself, 40 plus years in healthcare and IT, and some of our advisors have got many more than this, but Dr. Harkless is Dean of the UT Rio Grande Valley Podiatry School, is a lead.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. That's fine.
And then Dr. Hill. And that's my 5 minutes.
Okay, so thank you, Stan. It was a good job. Let's open it up to questions, folks.
I have a question. You mentioned monitoring diabetic feed issues. Can you just walk us through how exactly you do that?
Yeah, I wanted to know specifically what your device measures.
Measures temperature. It's measuring it change over time.
Can you speak up, Stan?
Can you hear me?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I'm sorry. I was trying to turn the camera on so you can see me. Now the bifocals don't matter. Yeah. So we have this device. Let me exit the.
Yeah, I don't see any.
Anyway, the device measures temperature, and when looking for elevation of temperature over time to be a precursor of diabetic foot ulcers.
Would the temperature of the feet be different than a body temperature? Just trying to gauge.
It's very, each person is unique, so we're not measuring to a standard. It's not core body temperature. We're measuring that person's change in temperature of their skin.
Get inflammation before you get the ulcer.
Right.
Got it.
Hey guys, just wanted to know.
Would this be applicable for other areas of inflammation?
It could be, but so I didn't mention about, it's not only FDA cleared, it went through 3 clinical trials, so that would be off-label. I mean, the trials were all related to diabetic foot issues, but other skin inflammations could be applied, but it would be off-label.
There's a
Guys, I need to say something. So, and this doesn't count for his time.
Hey, you're hogging again.
No, we made a mistake and we put a link to a different deck in the
Oh, that might be it.
So we just fixed it and we put it into we put a link to his deck if anybody wants to review any information.
Okay, well, I'm just
okay. So you get 30 seconds.
Still a little confused. Is this because something here? Is this looking at glucose and oxygen, or is it just looking at temperature?
Just looking at temperature.
Okay, so it's like a thermocouple on a wearable.
No, it's a wand. Let's see if I can get.
You showed a picture of it, Rob.
I did. I'm trying to get back to it, and somehow my
if you're looking at the one that's in the link, it's on the it's like the fourth slide. It's like a little white.
Long it looks like a little thermometer, mouth thermometer.
It's like an 18-inch long wand. I mean,
it's on slide 7.
It was designed so that you could reach the bottom of your foot. If you're obese or arthritic, you can get to the curved end, so you can take those skin temperature readings.
Well, it's still the wrong link. It's showing me the tongue depressor guy.
I'm sharing my screen, which it shows it on the left side. You should be able to see it here.
That's it.
Anyway.
So where do you put that?
So the tip of it has a stainless steel ring right on the tip, and that touches the skin, and it takes a instantaneous reading with the infrared. Inside that tip is an infrared medical grade thermometer.
So I'm assuming that the user they'll look at the app, they'll touch the spot on their foot, and they'll indicate where they're touching when they get a reading. Is that something?
That's correct. The app actually directs them to the spot on the foot where they.
So you have to train them. You have to make sure that they know how to do this, right? Because I can imagine this not, for certain populations not being so easy. And by the way, I totally understand what you're doing with, how you're monitoring these potential spots. These they get hot spots first before they get, insufficiency and then ulcers and then amputation, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there you go. That's the better picture of it. Thanks, Alex, for your help.
So, hey, I'm just curious about something, Stan. Interesting. You're building these interesting devices. I know you're trying to build a monitoring system around them. Why not just take these devices and plug them into organizations that already have these patients? You're not going to take people away from an existing tool they're using. If they're happy on Teladoc, Livongo, all these other companies that are managing patients effectively, they're not going to stop that just because of this, right?
No, well, no. This is and we're coming out with another version of it.
No, I guess let me be more direct. Sorry. Why are you thinking about two different models? One is you sell this with the remote patient monitoring versus you sell the hardware for organizations, so you don't have to worry about the conversion factor. Getting somebody out of an existing chronic disease management platform once they're on is a much heavier lift than saying, hey, you're already stable. This increases your management. Here's a device that helps you do that. Are you looking at both paths, or are you going?
Yes. Yeah. No, we're looking. No, to answer your question, yes, we're looking at both paths.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, you got another 3 seconds. Anybody got a question? Preferably one that takes less than 3 seconds. Hang on. Okay, so let me go over to my screen. Thank you, Atisha. Always good to be told that you can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Actually, we can't hear you now because I turned my volume down, I think. Anybody? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Atisha?
Yep.
Okay, so a little drum roll. So we now have a new category we're calling crowd choice or honorable mention, which means you didn't win, place, or show, but we do love you, and we're probably going to talk to you more. So Cecil and Joe Scaduto, both really great ideas. You both just missed that third place, and we're very excited to keep talking to you guys, and we're probably going to. So
say the company names too, just in case we're
not. But you might make the cut for our due diligence process because we would love to help you guys, and we think we can help both you guys a lot.
Alex, say the name of the company.
So great job, guys.
I think you still have the computer muted.
I'm still muted?
No, the computer's muted, I think.
What do you mean? I mean, I can't.
Like you're not hearing people.
How is that possible? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Can you say the company names?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear anything that anybody said before, which is kind of how I am, I guess. But anyway, it's kind of, it just mimicked my real life. So what I had said before was that PathoProbes and CMTx by Cecil Motley and Joe Scaduto did great, but not good enough to make it into the win, place, or show categories. But we're really excited about them, et cetera. So, oh, you heard me. I didn't hear you. Okay. So third place also, is show, because, I learned my statistics at a racetrack. So is also a tie. We're excited about both these teams. We're definitely both going to look at both of you guys in due diligence process. So the medical legal expert matching Just Point by Victor Bornstein with a score of 7.63. And it was really hard to separate him from RxLive with a score of 7.75. Really both great job to Mark Engelen and to Victor Bornstein. And we're excited to keep on talking to both of you guys and see what we can do to help you guys move along faster, better, more. And it is noteworthy, actually, that our third investment came in third place and was a crowd favorite choice back in 2016. That was actually the company that Dan Rothman used to lead. So third place is very important for our fund. A lot of times it's where we can help the most. Okay, so the place is second place, and so our second place team, we're excited to be able to help Preemie Solutions with Gabby Smartcare, Jonathan Baut. So good job, John, and we're looking forward to talking to you at some length, later. So there you go, double thumbs up.
Thanks a lot, Alex.
No, thank you. I mean, what you're doing is important. And not just because my son spent, his first Christmas, in the baby ICU. And the number one team, I don't think anybody's going to be all that surprised here, was Rob Reynolds and his Elbe Valley solution, which I think is going to be very revolutionary.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's excited to see nanobots killing cancers. So
thank you. Thank you very much.
At some length. And just great job to all the teams. Now is